In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. George Orwell. Yeah. This is Blood Politics. The only podcast where we don't talk about politics. We be about politics. And our mission statement is to empower, educate, and encourage everyone to speak out against fascism. Speak out against injustice and fight for freedom and equality for everyone. This is Blood Politics, and we ain't stopping till they put us in the grave. We ain't gonna be quiet, and we ain't gonna be scared.
What's up, gang?
And we ain't gonna go along with the crowd.
What's happening?
This is Blood Politics.
It's about right into no sense wasting any time. No sense wasting any time. I appreciate you guys for joining me. How are the frustrated masses today? I know you're frustrated out there, so we're trying to give you a place where you can vent. We can find some like-minded people right here at Blunt Politics. Thanks to the fabulous community that we've built here. Thanks to the great mods that we have. Hopefully that's just something of what we offer here. I appreciate you guys. Once again, it is Thursday, 28 May. Thank you for joining us. Hit that like button on the way in. Subscribe to the channel. It is the little political podcast that could just trying to sift through the bullshit, the propaganda, the nonsense of the mainstream media, just living in the twilight zone, right? A day where you have to kind of simultaneously report on bombs and missiles being dropped and, exchanges of fire happening, while also people reporting that the ceasefire is still in place, while also people reporting that a peace deal is just around the corner for the 87th, 88th time at this point. Who knows? But we got a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss. A couple, breaking news stories that people are discussing right now. The DOJ launching a criminal inquiry into E. Jean Carroll. Continuing the ongoing weaponization that we've seen by Donald Trump, going after his political opponents, going after anybody that sued him in the past, anybody that said anything negative about him in the press, whatever it may be. He's utilizing the people that he has in power right now to go after these people. So we'll be keeping an eye on that and see what she's going to have to deal with. Obviously, U.S. and Iran trading strikes overnight, as we talked about. You guys brought it to my attention as we were doing the show live last night. Drones shot down. U.S. bases were hit. Bandar Abbas was struck again. Kuwaiti intercepts. Kuwait had to intercept drones and missiles. So again, having to discuss that, having to report on that, as simultaneously the reporting's out there that like some negotiated peace deal is right around the corner. Is again, it's a lot to digest. But we're going to try to do it here. I appreciate that. We're going to talk about some more details coming out about this alleged ceasefire extension. So we'll go through those. Benny Johnson's propaganda never stops. I think this may be his 10th or 11th video in the last 2 weeks, praising Donald Trump for getting this deal signed. He had one, I think we just talked about one about 3 days ago, maybe a little bit more than that. He said a deal was signed. He said it was all over. That didn't come to fruition whatsoever. So he just continues to put these ridiculous propaganda videos out. We got an LBC video discussing Trump's potential disastrous deal and, the reaction by some of the Republicans and how that's even kind of, surprising people outside of this country that, the negative implications and the negative reactions from even people inside of Donald Trump's own party himself. We got some new Lego videos to check out. We got a PBS Frontline special talking about Trump's decision to go into this war, to enact this war. So it's I don't know, it's kind of strange for me after watching so many of these, PBS Frontline specials on Vladimir Putin, the war in Ukraine in general, other pieces of history that we could look at. And we're already looking at documentaries. We're already looking at different pieces of content being written, being made by this second Trump administration. And it just, it really highlights what's taking place right now and the lunacy of it all, I'll say. And then obviously we got some news coming from Ukraine continuing to see success in and around Stepnogorsk, and obviously strangling the Russian supply line. So a couple videos to kind of keep us updated, as it were, on that one as well. What do you say we bring in the chat? Let's say hi to the chat, as we typically do. You guys deserve some airtime. You guys always deserve some screen time. You make this possible, right? So as you guys filter in, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Multiple ways in which you guys can contribute typically get the housekeeping notes out of the way. The Venmo's up in the corner. If you have a buck or two, if you can find a couple coins between the couch cushions to send in, and it doesn't take away from any other aspect of your life, we try to do things the independent route over here. We don't charge for anything. You don't have to, none of our content is hidden behind a paywall. The Substack is free, the whole 9 yards. So again, all we ask for is if you have, you find some value, if you find some benefit from being here or watching this content, kick in a buck or two. Anything above and beyond that's totally up to you guys. If you feel I'm deserving of more than if it's in your financial capabilities, then I very much appreciate it. So you can sign up for a YouTube membership just underneath me as well, heading over to the Patreon at patreon.com/BostonBrian. Obviously, one of the best ways to help keep this show going. 3 great tiers on there, access to to different perks and obviously different discounts on the merch site as well. So thank you guys to everybody that's been supporting. What's going on, Maggie? How are you? What's up, Roxanne? What's up, Yakov? Big salute to all the mods as usual. Very much appreciate you guys for everything that you do. What's up, Dame Dog? How are you, brother? What's up, Flipper? No Money G? What's up, Jackie? Vasantha? Jamie? SFL? What's going on? How are you guys? What's up, Jeff? Appreciate you, brother. What's up, Roxanne? Alvin? We get the whole crew here today. I like it. What's up, Olga? Nola? Let's go. Checking in there. Checking in. What's up? Maddie, how are you? What's going on? I see you over there. I appreciate you, everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, Substack. Like I said, the whole 9 yards for making this possible, for keeping this show growing. What's up, Norma? I see you over there on Facebook, dear. Hey, Roxy. How are you? Thank you, guys. I appreciate the support. What's up, Gamer? All right, what do you say we get into the first thing that I want to cover today? I am once again very honored to announce that we are, able to be affiliated with the latest NAFO 69 Sniffing Brigade campaign. We're titling this one "The Summer of Drones," and I think that's a very fitting title, considering the way that the war has been going, and again the technological advancements and just advancements in war in general that we've seen come from the Ukrainian side. So I think as the days get longer, the Russians are going to see some serious pain and some hurt brought to their doorstep by these new Ukrainian drones. But once again, the goal is 20,500 euro. We're raising funds to try to get a vehicle, this time a NAFO 3.0 truck, this time going to the 3rd Operational Battalion, the artillery platoon. So we're helping some artillery folks out this time. They're asking for support in a NAFO 3.0 truck to keep their crews moving on the Lipsy direction. So again, any way which we can help, if you kick in a buck, if you can kick in $2, if you kick in enough to get a patch, I think we have probably some of the best patches in the game right now. I mean, between the Summer of Drones patch with the Boston Red Sox hat, cheersing, fucking holding, toasting a beer to the Ukrainian military, to the Ukrainian people. You got the drones flying up ahead. You get the Zakum Bridge in the background. You get the Boston skyline. I mean, I don't know if it gets much better than that. If it does, I think it's this one. The 007 Skyfall patch. I mean, that one's fucking sick. I mean, being a big 007 James Bond fan myself, obviously, the close ties and relationship it has to what we're actually seeing on the battlefield with the high-speed drone interceptors there. I think that's a badass one. And then obviously we got the Kherson is Ukraine with the watermelon there, Kherson up on the top. So again, if you donate, I think it's about $116 if I'm not mistaken. I do believe you get sent a patch here, but just to fill you in on a little bit more about this, it says their artillery teams depend on fast logistics every single day. Ammunition, food supplies, equipment, troop rotations all need to reach positions quickly and safely. Without reliable transport, even simple resupply missions become dangerous and slow. This pickup will help the unit carry ammunition to artillery positions, rotate personnel, and support frontline operations across their area of responsibility. But for the soldiers, a vehicle is not just logistics. It is also a way to protect lives by reducing exposure and helping crews move faster under constant threat. I mean, I don't think I need to reiterate the need for vehicles and not having to, walk around the front lines on foot. These vehicles are there so they get damaged, really. You know what I mean? They're there so they take the impact, or they take, the strike, and the people inside the vehicle remain safe, or as safe as humanly possible in that circumstance. So that's why we have the consistent need to resupply and to continue raising funds and money and continue sending vehicles that way, because they don't last very long. But again, it's better to have the vehicles take the hit and have to to get a new vehicle than it is to watch the soldiers take the brunt of whatever the drone or missile attack or whatever that we're talking about, obviously. So this is focused on giving these defenders defenders the mobility they need to continue their work and keep the guns operating when they are needed most. And it says here, Ukrainian soldiers know that the immense value of our NAFO trucks and buses. These vehicles are carefully selected between 2011 and 2019, ensuring basically, reliability per cost effectiveness as well. So you're getting the best bang for your buck in that general range with the specific vehicles they have picked out. And we've talked time and time again about the work that the Help 99, the NAFO team, and the 69th Sniffing Brigade have done here. I think we're up to, I'm paraphrasing here. I'm quoting. Hopefully I don't misquote, but I think it's around 22 to 23 million euro raised in different ways in different campaigns through Help 99. And again, this NAFO campaign with the 69th Sniffing Brigade. So like I said, let me hop out of the way real quick. You can see the goal. We already got a donation in there. Somebody already donated 452 euro to get us started, which is fan-fucking-tastic. And like I said, the total goal being 20,500 euro. To get a vehicle to, like I said, the 3rd operational battalion, the artillery platoon. So, that's obviously very important to the front lines, very important to the movement, the resupply of the Ukrainian front lines as well, making sure that they have the artillery systems in place, and obviously the ability to keep those artillery systems, fed, resupplied, have their ammunition. Like I said, I don't think I need to go into too much detail. And like I said, this is like against the betterment of the channel. Like I know I have not the biggest viewing on YouTube or on social media in general, and I rely solely upon the generosity and the contributions from the chat here. So I'm very aware that this is probably not great for the channel, and it's not like it goes against the betterment of the channel in some aspects. But again, we are willing to utilize this platform to the best of our ability for very serious purposes, for very serious and meaningful things. And again, this is just one of those times where it pays for sacrifice. Sometimes you have to sacrifice in order to do the right thing, and I feel like this is just one of those moments because, like I said, if anybody here is typically donating $5 or $20 to Blunt Politics every month, which I am so very grateful for, and say you put that into the Summer of Drones campaign, maybe that means that you can't do it for the show for the rest of them. You can understand how it's not the biggest pool. It's not it's not an infinity pool, let's just say, of viewers that we have here and the amount that they have to contribute. I tell you guys time and time again that I am so very much appreciative and grateful, and I do recognize how many channels that you guys watch and how many channels ask you guys to donate to different things, and you guys are spread thin. I understand because I come from watching the same things that you guys watch as well. But I am very proud and honored to be a part of these campaigns and be able to again resupply or be able to have some value in keeping the Ukrainian military and these different people inside the military resupplied and able to get around the front lines. So we're going to continue doing our part here. I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. I appreciate you guys for helping us get through these campaigns. And the last one was amazing. I was very, very surprised at how quickly we went through that campaign and got it done. Hopefully we can break the record and do it even quicker this time. So like I said, just wanted to start off by letting everybody know that this is live now. The Summer of Drones Boston Bryant campaign is live on Help 99. And I will give this link to the mods, obviously, and the mods can throw this in the chat. So everybody has the link just in case. Like I said, every little bit helps, whether it's $1, $2, $5, enough to get a patch, or even more than that. All of it helps. So again, there is no minimum amount, and there is no person here that says, that has to come out and say, sorry, you couldn't give more. Because like I said, it all goes to the right place. So, all right. Thank you guys for sticking with me on that. Well, let's get into a few of these kind of news stories that we have to detail here. What was this first one? I think this was yeah, here it is right here, where E. Jean Carroll, the DOJ, has launched an inquiry into E. Jean Carroll. Again, this is just a little piece, a little part of the ongoing weaponization. And again, this was something that Donald Trump was pointing at Joe Biden's administration for. Look no further than the $1.8 billion slush fund that has now been created for the criminals that have been wronged by the Biden administration and all this bullshit. Meanwhile, Donald Trump engaged in blatant criminality, blatant fraud, and clearly using, the people that he's put into power to weaponize their power to go against his either political opponents or just people that made him look bad in the public eye, whatever it may be. Anybody that he doesn't like now should feel threatened, again, from fucking fucking E. Jean Carroll to Hassan Piker at this point, and everybody in between, seemingly is on the radar for Donald Trump and Donald Trump's DOJ, FBI, you name it. And if Donald Trump doesn't like you enough, it seems like he's gonna weaponize his government against you. So this is just a quick. I think this is only about a couple minutes here, giving us an update and some details into what may be taking place here. So I figured I'd throw this on for you guys again. This is ABC News. DOJ launches criminal inquiry into E. Jean Carroll. So let's just see what's going on here.
The Justice Department launching a criminal investigation into E. Jean Carroll, the magazine columnist who successfully sued President Trump for sexual abuse and defamation. Sources tell ABC News the investigation is allegedly centered around whether Carroll committed perjury during her civil lawsuits against Trump. Carroll was awarded a $5 million civil judgment in 2023 that found Trump liable for sexually abusing her in a department store dressing room in the mid-1990s and defaming her, the day after Carroll telling ABC why she decided to come forward.
I only decided to come forward and tell what happened. I thought that was enough. And then he said terrible things about me, dragged me through the ground my face in the dirt.
The president has long maintained his innocence.
But as far as I know, I never met her.
And again, I don't know what this just shows. The media is like, fucking how cowardly the media is to have to even stipulate that. Like, why stipulate that when we know he was found responsible? He was found civilly responsible for the sexual assault of E. Jean Carroll. Like, you don't have to put in that stipulation that he, proclaims that he's been innocent the whole time and that he was like wrongfully convicted on that suit or in that case, right? It's like, they have to add that in just to be like, well, we said it, you know what I mean? We just, in case he comes at us and tweets at us or, decides to come at us on True Social, at least we could point back to that part where we, we at least stipulated that he proclaims his innocence there. And it pisses me off every single time when you can look back clearly at the evidence, the legalities of the matter, and you don't have to stipulate that. Doesn't matter what the fuck he claims. We know, and we've heard what he's been claiming for years. That doesn't matter. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that E. Jean Carroll went on to twice successfully sue Donald Trump for the defamation in that case as well, above and beyond the sexual assault that she was awarded, substantial funds for as well. But, this is, again, just clear manipulation of Donald Trump and his government going after somebody that he feels embarrassed the shit out of him, got the better of him, or again, made him look bad in the public eye. So he's going to try to do everything he can to get his retribution, to get his revenge here. And then this is, again, we've seen this with Comey. We've seen this with multiple people at this point now.
I never touched her. I would have had no interest in meeting her in any way, shape, or form.
Last November, the president asked the Supreme Court to overturn the case. And earlier this month, Trump won a delay in another defamation case in which he was ordered to pay Carroll more than $83 million for defaming her by calling her a liar and her claim a hoax. Now the Justice Department going even further, targeting Carroll directly. The new investigation just the latest in a long string of actions directed at the president's rivals. Just last month, the Justice Department indicted former FBI Director James Comey, Trump's longtime nemesis, for the second time. Trump blames Comey for the investigation into Russian interference in his 2016 campaign and has urged his DOJ to go after him. The president has also been calling for federal prosecutors to use the criminal justice system to go after other political opponents, including former Fed Chair Jerome Powell, New York Attorney General Letitia James, Democratic Senator Adam Schiff, and former National Security Advisor John Bolton.
So again, just E. Jean Carroll being the latest in a long string of people, a long line of people that Donald Trump is likely to try to, in some way, shape, or form, seek some revenge against. But, that's kind of what we've seen lately with him and his government. Point the finger at everybody else, tell everybody else that they're responsible for doing exactly what he's doing at this moment in time. And it somehow seems to work in a lot of cases. But, here's a couple other things that was that was in the news that I saw this morning that kind of I thought you'd be interested in here. Not only are we engaged in strikes in and around Iran still, and obviously the ongoing the ongoing escalations there, the ongoing I don't know what you'd call it, the destabilization of the Middle East. But we're now continuously here continuously these ongoing narco-terrorist strikes, these boat strikes that we saw in and around Venezuela. Well, this is reported here by Dropsite. It says U.S. military strikes vessels in Eastern Pacific, killing 2. U.S. Southern Command said Joint Task Force Southern Spear conducted a, quote, lethal kinetic strike on a vessel in the Eastern Pacific on May 27th, so yesterday, killing 2 people, and it described as a narco-terrorist. Southcom claimed the vessel was operated and by designated terrorist organizations and was engaged in drug trafficking. Same thing that we've heard in the other, the double tap strikes and in the rest of those strikes that we talked about some months ago. It says that no independent verification of those claims is available. Of course, the overall death toll from extrajudicial U.S. strikes in the Pacific and in the Caribbean has risen to at least 196 people that have been extrajudicially killed by the United States, according to Amnesty International data. And again, I believe this was the footage released here by U.S. Southern Command. And as it looks to me, it doesn't look like this boat is in motion at the time that it is struck. Right. And again, I don't know if it was previously, disabled before this and it was just dead in the water for some time, but it doesn't seem like it's a threat. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't seem like this boat is going anywhere. There's no wake behind it. Clearly seems to be just, sitting stable in the water. But you guys, tell me what you guys think. It's just a real quick 13-second clip. I don't even know if there's any sound to it, but it seems to be just a boat bobbing in the water there, not posing any threat, really. Could have been boarded, right? Could have been intercepted. A lot of different ways that this could have been approached, but, they decided to, again, just lob a missile at it and kill 2 of the alleged potential people that were on board here. So you can see here the strike. Boat doesn't seem to be moving anywhere. Missile comes in. Clear fireball. And again, the boat's not, even if a boat was traveling at a high rate of speed and was hit by a missile, it would still continue through its momentum. That's not what you see here. Even if it was traveling slowly, doesn't seem to be going anywhere after the strike either. Just seems to be clearly in the same spot. You can even see the wake from the strike going out evenly around the boat, right? The boat's not moving within that wake. So, who knows what the full details and the full story is from that, but, kind of falls in line with the ongoing military actions, that has been ordered by Donald Trump and undertaken by Pete Hegseth there at the Pentagon. Oh, thank you, Al Yorkie. Thank you so much for NAFO, Slava Ukraine, Heroyam Slava. Very much appreciate that. What a huge and generous donation. Thank you so much, my brother. Thank you so much. Who else is in there? I saw a couple other ones in there. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jerry. Very much appreciate you guys in there. And again, like I always do, stick around to the end of the show. If for some reason I miss your super chat, or if I miss your comment during the show, we always go through at the end of the show and recognize anybody that sends in a Venmo, anybody that sends in a super chat. If you hit a membership milestone, if you donate or gift any memberships, anything like that, we always highlight and recognize people at the end of every single podcast. So again, my apologies if I don't see it go by as it happens, but make sure you stick around to the end of the show and you'll get your recognition, your 2 minutes in the sun. You know what I mean? All right, so that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about. Here's another one that pertains to Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, and the handling of our military. Also reported here by Dropsite, Guatemala agrees to joint U.S. military strikes inside its territory as the Trump administration expands Latin America's military campaign. Guatemala has agreed to allow joint U.S. strikes and military operations inside its borders targeting alleged drug trafficker groups, according to 3 people familiar with the talks cited by the New York Times. President Bernardo Arevalo agreed to the deal in a call with the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth last week, with operations set to begin as early as next month. Guatemala becomes the second country after Ecuador to accept such an arrangement. Honduras is the next on the Pentagon's list. So again, above and beyond Greenland, above and beyond Iran, above and beyond Venezuela, above and beyond Cuba, right? We got to now think about Ecuador and Guatemala as far as, ongoing military actions by the United States military here. It says Honduras is next on the Pentagon's list, according to two people familiar with the plans. This forms a part of a broader strategy advocated by Stephen Miller. So you know it must be a fucking beauty, right? You know it's got to be a beauty if Stephen Miller's behind it. And Pentagon policy official Joseph Humeyer to normalize U.S. military presence across Latin America and leverage to pressure Mexico into accepting joint counter-drug operations. President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico has so far firmly rejected those requests. Experts say the boat strikes may be illegal and carry legal risks for the Pentagon. An expansion of that effort inside Latin America countries may come with even more legal risk. People familiar with the effort said, as we've been talking about since this has been undertaken by the Pentagon, by Donald Trump, by Pete Hegseth. You can't just go around double tapping people in fishing boats in international waters. It's just not the way that it works, especially when there's ample other opportunities, ample other options that you have to, again, intercept, board those vessels, take those vessels over yourself. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many other different ways in which you could do that. And then obviously you'd get more information from the people that were alive and able to speak, right? You might figure out where the drugs were coming from, if in fact they did have drugs at all on the boat, right? You might be able to figure out and how to get back to the actual, the manufacturer, the factory itself. But anyway, I digress. That would be too smart of the people. This also says here that in March, a joint U.S.-Ecuador strike hit a civilian cattle and dairy farm, not the drug trafficking compound Hegseth boasted about destroying. Since September, 59 U.S. boats in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific have killed at least 196 people, with the Trump administration providing little evidence that the targets were smugglers. And it's attached here, the New York Times article, Guatemala agrees to joint strikes with U.S. against drug gangs here. So, again, all of this pertaining to military action, ongoing military action, and strikes by the Trump regime here, by the Pentagon, and obviously Pete Hegseth. But, obviously talking about military strikes and the ridiculousness of having to simultaneously report on potential negotiations, potential peace deals, while also reporting on bombs being dropped, missiles being lobbed, U.S. bases being hit, drones being shot out of the sky, boats being sank, like ceasefire. Also, all of that is surrounded in like this ridiculous envelope of this, like, I don't know, ceasefire, I guess they're calling it, which is not a ceasefire. It's insane. But let me throw this on your screen here. This is from the Hormuz letter, and I just figured we'd go over the reporting from the last 20 or so hours, obviously with the strikes happening overnight. This was 19 hours ago, reported break-in, 3 loud explosions heard east of the Strait of Hormuz, coastal city Bandar Abbas, which has, again, been in the news. That was what we talked about last time, one of the sites that was struck by the United States again. This says it was 25 minutes ago at the time it was reported, with air defenses activated for several minutes. It says U.S. Air Force E-3G AWACS, P-8A Poseidons, tankers, fighter jets are active over the Persian Gulf with transponders off. And again, like I said, this is at the time, and we're just kind of walking up to current moment here. It says U.S. officials confirmed the U.S. carried out a, quote, defensive operation, as now they've really landed on that as being the rhetoric, the line that they're going to use to justify these ongoing military strikes and actions that we're seeing in a supposed ceasefire while supposed peace deals are going on behind the scenes. So again, they've landed on ceasefire and defensive strikes, defensive operations in order to excuse that. But what goes on here to say that the U.S. will act to safeguard its regional interests, and this does not affect the ceasefire, which is asinine. Iran's IRGC shot down a U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone again on Monday, with the foreign ministry declaring Iran will, quote, not leave any new aggression unanswered. There is no ceasefire, again, coming from the Iranian side, clearly showing the wide distance between what the United States is saying and clearly what the Iranians are still saying. And how you're getting some peace deal out of this, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just everything is so fucking ridiculous at this point. Everything is so like, your guess is as good as mine type of aspect that we're in. This also goes on to say that the IRGC announces it's just targeted a U.S. base in Kuwait as a direct retaliation for last night's U.S. strikes near Bandar Abbas, calling the base the origin of the aggression. So the IRGC warned, if repeated, our response will become more decisive, obviously threatening more escalatory actions. This is here also breaking. Iran rejected today's Axios report claiming a U.S.-Iran deal, or MOU, has been reached. And again, this is what we're reporting in a second. So this is how, like, again, let me show you this. If this doesn't detail really where we are, let me show you this. So again, we have this at the same time, right? So we got this. Let me throw this on the screen. Okay, so we got this. right there. So we have this, right? Trump launched latest Iran strikes out of frustration as negotiations stall. Okay. So as you have Al Jazeera English reporting that, just moments after that, or just hours after that, you got this. It's like U.S.-Iran memorandum of understanding has been agreed to, but needs Trump's final approval. It's like, what are we doing here, right? You can't report that bombs are being dropped, bullets are being shot, drones are being launched. Like, at the same time, we're talking about this memorandum of understanding. You know what I mean? It's just, what are we doing here? And I know it's not like unprecedented to have, military actions continuing to happen as you have negotiations ongoing, World War II being a great example, right? But that was like a clearly different circumstance where we were trying to pressure through fucking military force the other side to capitulate, right? We wanted a full and outright capitulation, a full and outright surrender by the axis of evil, by the Nazis, by Japan, obviously. So that's not what we're doing here. We're basically just sitting here with our dick in our hand, with our thumb up our ass, with this blockade in place of a strait that was already closed. Meanwhile, we're watching the economic devastation continue to grow day after day after day. We reported yesterday that some experts now are talking about 2032. It'll be before we see, less than $3 a gallon gas again, right? I mean, even if it's not 6 years, even if it's 3 years, even if it's 2 years, even if it's a year, even if it's fucking 10 months from now. I mean, look at the devastation it's caused and the hurt and the harm that it's caused to the American people now. We go another 10 months. And like I said, I just don't think we're pissed off enough. I just don't think we're angry enough in this country. I don't know if we have it in us to become angry enough to recognize to what degree we're being slapped in the face, kicked in the nuts, and trampled on right now by not only this administration, but by the billionaire class. I don't know if we have that ability anymore. I'm starting to question that. But, at the same time, we have, reports of the memorandum of understanding being signed. You have to deal with like shit like this, Donald Trump striking Iran out of frustrations because the negotiations stalled. It's like, which the fuck one is it here? You know what I mean? What are we doing? I just can there be some consistency with the fucking reporting? And I know to a certain degree it's not the reporter's fault because it's just lack of information, lack of transparency coming from our administration. Obviously, Iran has the ability, the willingness to not lie, but to propagandize the situation to their benefit, right? So it's like it's difficult for anybody, as we've said this entire time, to get a clear understanding, a clear and concise picture of not only what's happening right now, but what we're likely to see in the future. It seems like all the bases are covered. We're still seeing bombs dropped. We're now seeing Israel, escalate its actions, take over more of Gaza, escalates its actions in Lebanon. At the same time, we're seeing bombs being shot by the United States into Iran. We're being, the United States is sinking boats. Iran's lobbing missiles back into U.S. bases. Kuwait's having to intercept drones and missiles. But it's also a ceasefire. But there's also peace talks and negotiations going on. It's like, okay, is there anything else you want to throw in there? Do you want the fucking kitchen sink in there too? Like, what are we doing here? Fucking none of that is adding up. None of that's oil and water, okay? We got oil and water there. Those things can't happen at the same time. You can't have a ceasefire while Israel's doing what it's doing. You can't have a ceasefire while also lobbing drones and missiles into Iran. You can't have a ceasefire while Iran's lobbing drones and missiles into U.S. bases. It's like those things are not compatible. Can't fucking happen. It's so fucking frustrating. Like the words, the definitional use of the words ceasefire has just been fucking thrown out the window. Yeah, it used to mean something, but fuck it. We'll just say it to say it at this point. People won't know the difference. But again, this is the last thing. Oh, no, that was the last thing I saw. Iran rejects Axios report claiming U.S.-Iran deal. Axios is new fake news. We've talked about Barack Ravid and Axios doing this time and time again. It's actually surprising to me. I actually left Barack Ravid a message on Twitter today. I was really curious, like how painful it is to have to crawl out of Donald Trump's asshole every time he asked Barack Ravid to make one of these reports that there's a deal right around the corner, right? And then we'll see later on where Benny Johnson fucking got a skin ripping boner basically because of the drop in oil price. And then the bombs started being launched again and the oil price spiked right the fuck back up. So they just look like fools time and time again. Well, let me see if I can throw this one on here. This is just the New York Times. I just want to see if there's anything, breaking or anything that we've missed. This is just kind of the live updates going on. This is from last night. This is the Kuwait Army said Thursday morning that its air defenses were intercepting hostile drones and missiles. The Army statement on social media did not say how many drones and missiles were detected or where they came from. I think we know. But this also goes on. Like I said, this is last night's reporting. We're just kind of working our way up to the current timeline. Iran's IRGC Corps said it has responded early Thursday to the latest U.S. strikes on the Iranian port of Bandar Abbas by targeting by American base, from which the strikes were launched. The statement published by Iranian state media did not say where the American base was located or how it was targeted. If such strikes happen again, as we said earlier, the response will become more decisive, as said by the IRGC. And I just wanted to see if there was anything. We do a quick refresh, see if there's any other updates that we missed, anything that may have happened since we came on live. Let's see. Obviously, the situation changes so goddamn quick around here. You never know what you're going to get. Life is like a box of chocolates. Let me see here. IRGC, I think that's the thing that we just read. So obviously, nothing more to gather from there. Let me see here. I think there was an update. Yeah, Ben from Midas Touch had an update. So let's see if there's anything that we could dive into on this one as well, because this talks about, may give a little bit more information about the strike on the U.S. base and the reaction to that from the United States and, what the hell is taking place here. So just a couple minutes of this, if I could, and then we'll go over in the Kobisi letter. I saw that they did have some of the details in a way in which it's easy to understand. If in fact, like I said, take it with a grain of salt. These are the real details of the things. Maybe we'll go over this now, and then we'll get into the MT video here. But this is as reported by the Kobisi letter, the expected terms of the U.S.-Iran 60-day ceasefire extension, or the MOU, which again we just reported was falsely reported by Axios. So you can see here, this is per Axios. So again, take everything you hear here with a grain of salt. But we're just going through what's thrown out there. Okay. This is one. The ceasefire will be extended via a memorandum of understanding. That's the MOU. 2, establishes a 60-day window to launch negotiation on Iran's nuclear program. 3, and again, that's not it at all what Donald Trump said was going to happen, what he wanted to see happen, the red line that he said he wouldn't back down from whatsoever. So already on point 2, Donald Trump's getting bitch slapped. During the 60-day period, shipping through the Strait of Hormuz will be unrestricted. U.S. Navy will lift its blockade in proportion with the restoration of commercial shipping. Iran will include a commitment not to pursue a nuclear weapon in the memorandum of understanding. The MOU will also state that the nuclear issues will be discussed, quote unquote, first during the 60-day window. The U.S. will commit to discussing sanctions relief and the release of frozen Iranian funds, which we've talked about in the tunes of billions and billions of dollars, which, I don't know, we could just probably suspect may go towards, rebuilding their weapons stockpile, maybe going towards building a nuclear weapon in the future, even if they do say, hey, yeah, we'll give up our enriched uranium. We've already reneged on our deal. We've already bombed them while we were actively engaged in peace talks, or at least negotiations in some way, shape, or form. So what's stopping them from in any way trying to get one over on us, from pulling the wool over Donald Trump's eyes as far as this deal is concerned? Yeah, we'll give you whatever we have. Might not be all of it. Not only that, but you give us billions of dollars in frozen assets. And honestly, we'll talk about reparations as to the damages that you guys caused here through your drones and missiles. But at least send us the frozen assets of billions of dollars, and maybe we could use that to resupply, restock our missiles, restock our drone technology, build upon our drone technology. So again, this is not something that people like Lindsey Graham, people like Ted Cruz, Mike Pompeo, they're not going to be too happy about. If in fact, like I said, hand up, take it with a grain of salt, any of this is in fact what's being talked about, discussed, or does end up in the final agreement. If in fact the final agreement does come to fruition, because like I said, we're in such a fucking twilight zone right now. We're living in such a wacky, crazy, fucking cuckoo timeline right now that and anything's possible. That's basically the gist of it. Anything's possible. The U.S. will commit to discussing sanction relief and the release of frozen Iranian funds. Like we said, the MOU will also include a mechanism to help Iran begin receiving goods and humanitarian aid. U.S. stock markets are surging to fresh record highs on the news of a potential deal. Again, he literally puts it in this. Axios literally puts it in the fucking statement while they're doing this, right? The U.S. stock markets are surging because we keep talking about this potential deal. But yet when the bombs drop, when the fucking missiles start getting dropped on U.S. bases again, it's funny how the fucking market reacts, or at least the oil prices react, right? Which is, again, what's having a huge impact on your daily life, whether it's what you're filling up, what it's costing you to fill up at the gas pump, or, again, what it's costing companies to get the goods to the store. that you need, that you inevitably buy, at the end of that chain. If it's going to cost more for fuel, if the jet fuel is costing more, like that inevitably filters down to the goods that you're buying, because it costs them more to get there, costs them more to ship, costs them more to store, costs them more to transport. They're going to pass that cost down to you. They're not just going to eat that whatsoever. So like I said, let me see if there was anything through this Midas Touch video that we could learn here through, and again, they're talking about the strikes by Iran on the U.S. air bases. So let's see if there's any other information that we could find in this one. I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button. My name is Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. If you could subscribe to the channel and help us get to 25,000 subscribers, that would be fucking fantastic, and I will be forever grateful. So appreciate you guys. Let's go.
Donald Trump is panicking as Iran did not hesitate to strike back, and strike back hard. It did against the United States Air Force Base in Kuwait. This followed the United States striking the Hormuz coastal city of Bandar Abbas at 1:30 a.m. Iranian time. 3 hours later, Iran launched its own strikes against this United States Air Force Base in Kuwait. Donald Trump has simply posted a photo of an AI image involving the reflecting pool that he keeps on talking about over and over again. Let's break down what went down. So around 4:30 a.m., Kuwait's army said its air defenses were intercepting hostile missile and drone attacks, warning residents that any explosion sounds are the result of air defense systems engaging incoming threats. Then we got this statement from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps announcing that it carried out a drone and missile attack in the morning against an American air base in Kuwait, and promising additional retaliation if the United States continued to violate the ceasefire. This is the statement from the IRGC. IRGC targets American air base. They ain't hiding it. They're leaning into it. They write, following the early morning attack today by the invading U.S. Army on a point.
I mean, when he says leaning into it, that's no different. And again, not calling him out by any stretch of the imagination. He's right on what he's saying here, but they've been leaning into this the entire time. Like, there's been no moment where this, like, the rhetoric of capitulation or the rhetoric of backing down has been evident, where it's been said by Donald Trump. It's been said that the Iranian side has said it. We haven't seen any of that. When they say that they're ready to capitulate, they're ready to sign a deal, it seems like that's when they're the most defiant, right? When they're out there talking about not only their ability but their willingness to withstand the blockade and continue to keep a chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz. Like, this falls right in line with them being like, okay, you fucking gonna hit us, we're gonna hit you right fucking back here. Like, this isn't us, losing, being able to save face. This is us fucking being able to stay on the same level. You know what I mean? You guys strike us, we're going to pick a base to strike back. That's just how it's going to work.
Bandar Abbas Airport with aerial projectiles. The American air base, as the origin of the aggression, was targeted at 4:50 a.m. The IRGC Public Relations issued a statement. In the name of Allah, the commander of the compellers. So if they attack you, attack them in the same way that they attack you. You have Iran's Revolutionary Guard spokesperson, Ibrahim, wrote the following. Any other American attacks will lead to a more decisive response. The further comment from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard is, following this aggressive attack, we responded by striking the Air Force. This response serves as a stern warning to inform the enemy that its attacks will not go unanswered, and if repeated, our response will be more decisive. The responsibility for the consequences lies with the aggressor. So remember the sequence of events. 1:30 a.m. Iranian time, 3 loud explosions heard east of the Strait of Hormuz coastal city of Bandar Abbas. Then the U.S. officials confirm the U.S. carried out defensive operations. That's how the U.S. referred to it, as defensive operations, in striking Bandar Abbas, claiming that the U.S. will act to safeguard its regional interests, and this does not affect the ceasefire. They said, yes, we're striking Iran. It's defensive. Ceasefire still on, everybody. We cool with the ceasefire still on. So here is how Iran, though, said the event. I want to go through the sequence of events, because the United States corporate media is saying there's a ceasefire, everything's fine, everything's normal. That's not what's happening, okay? The Trump regime CENTCOM is covering up what's happening. They're covering up the fact that Iran struck down an MQ-9 Reaper the other day, the drone that we talked about, that Iran was able to lock into an F-35 on its radar when the F-35 are supposed to be not detectable. And so while Donald Trump's out there, basically saying, we're going to bomb Oman next, right? He threatened to bomb Oman, or Donald Trump's like, we can do it the easy way or the hard way. And as Donald Trump keeps on changing the terms of deals, I want to do a deal, I don't want to do a deal. Donald Trump had the United States military try to help some cargo ships out. And then when Iran caught the tankers and cargo ships leaving, then the United States did these small strikes in Iran, and Iran's like, okay, well, you do that to us during a ceasefire, we're going to hit your Air Force base. And that's what went down. And so
again, I think it's pretty, self-evident to everybody that the Iranians are not in a position looking like they're backing down, and anything that Donald Trump says is probably a lie and not what's actually taking place. It's a pretty good, place to start at least, but let's throw this on, because this will probably detail that better than anything, because this the ongoing propaganda push by Benny Johnson is one for the ages here. It's going to be one for the record books. Okay, so let's see if we can take a look at, as I like to do. Let's see if I can go back. We'll take a look at Benny Johnson's page, and let's just see how many times again. So it's happening is the victory. He's continuing. That was an hour ago. That's not even the one that we're looking at. So it says it's happening, talking about a deal being forced. He's forcing Iran into deal. So that's another one where he says everything's okay. Here's another one where deal official. There's another official deal that was done, even though there was no deal that was official or no deal done. There was another one here. Vance is out. Yep, deal. And here's another one. Deal done. Another deal done. So that's another one where the deal was done, but the deal wasn't really done. Oh, here's another one right above my head. Another deal done. Right. So that's a deal done, but there was no deal done. It's like he just there's about 1.5 billion of these things where, at every moment where Axios or Barack Ravitas come out of Donald Trump's asshole to have to report that there was some negotiated settlement on the, on the horizon, it seems like Benny Johnson has to make a video. He's required by law, by the Kremlin, by, the White House that he gets paid by, allegedly, that he has to make a video saying that a deal is official, a deal is done, the war is over, or some bullshit like that. But you can tell from his titles and headlines, what's going to be coming in this one. This one is another one. Iran announces peace deal with Trump, open straight, oil craters hard, markets roar. Okay, everything's hunky-dory, everything's fucking awesome, things are back to normal, ladies and gentlemen. I know that's not what you're experiencing and feeling in your everyday lives, but if you're listening to Benny Johnson, that's what he's trying to portray here. Again, Iran announces peace deal with Trump. Not exactly what's happened at all. The strait is not open. Oil cratered, but is now back up after the bombs were dropped. And the markets, again, are about as unstable as they've ever been. So, again, let's see if we can throw this on the screen. Just a couple minutes of this. I know we don't typically subject it to too much of Benny Johnson, but, just to see how, sycophantic and ridiculous the propaganda has to be at this point in time to continuously go out there and believe that some deal's right around the corner while just, I guess, excusing the bombs that are being dropped. Just don't mind those. Don't worry about those. Those loud explosions that you're hearing, don't mind those. You know what I mean? That means nothing. We got a peace deal right around the corner.
Actually happening, and the markets are reacting in real time. Live on your screen right now is the price of oil absolutely and totally collapsing over the last few days.
And hold on, just real quick. When he made this, how long ago this came out? This came out a day ago. Okay, not even a day ago. And he's pointing out the futures right there and the oil prices at 77. What do you think they are now? What do you think they are now? Because we're already looking at Brent here back up to 94.59, WTI right at about 90 there. So again, it fluctuates, it goes down, it goes up based upon Axios' reporting. It'll go down, and then we find out that's bullshit right away, or we see the bombs being dropped and it goes right back up. Right? It's like fucking, they don't think that we see this by now. They don't think that we understand how this is working and the market manipulation that they're attempting to get across here. Come on. It's been happening long enough where enough people have called it out where, it's pretty clear what's going on, what's happening, but how dumb you have to look to be like, oh my God, look at the price of oil. You have to know that it's going to change quickly, right? You have to know if you're out there applauding and praising the price of oil, then that something else could possibly happen and make you look like an absolute twat bag in less than a day because the oil has jumped back up to $90-something a barrel. You know what I mean? You think you'd take that into account, but you can't. When you're doing propaganda for the administration, when you're doing propaganda for the regime, and you can't question anything, and you're not going to talk about any of the negative aspects. We saw Benny Johnson the other day, if you're watching the show, got about as negative towards the rhetoric coming out of the White House than I've ever seen. And that was just a couple of scoffs, a couple laughs at the ceasefire term that's been thrown around as we talked about I believe it was the Monday strikes at this point. So that was about as kind of defiant as I've seen Benny Johnson, and it wasn't really defiant at all. So that just tells you a little bit about him. But he goes on here to try to praise this deal somehow that hasn't been done, that isn't in the works, but he wants to let you know, he wants you to think it's in the works, or it's going to come, or if it does happen, that it's going to be good for the United States, which it's not.
And it is on a rocket ship down to Earth right now because the details of the Iran peace deal with President Trump and America have just been made public by Iran. Critical element there. Iranian media reporting,
and this is like Tim Pool using liberal media that he says is fake and can't be trusted to, again, justify or corroborate something that he's saying on his podcast. Same thing with Benny Johnson, right? He's been talking shit about the Iranians. He's been talking about how the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th string have been eliminated. These people are all morons. You don't know who you're dealing with. They don't know their ass from their fucking elbow. Now, all of a sudden, he's more than happy to use the Iranian state television's reporting of the leaked details to his benefit, even though, again, those fucking details don't go to his benefit. They aren't the flex that he thinks they are. You know what I mean? Like, we're not returning to even pre-Iran war levels as far as geopolitical control. The regime hasn't been changed over in Iran. There wasn't this like huge revolution by the people to overturn the government. Nothing like that happened. We're still with the same regime, much like we are in Venezuela. They're a more hardline regime, less likely to be amenable to the United States, less likely to engage in peace talks or negotiations because of obviously the ongoing bombing campaign that they've been under, the fact that his father was, murdered, the fact that other family members have been murdered, there have been war crimes committed in his country. I don't know, just a couple of these things may go on to hamper the relationships going on in the future. I'm just, I'm speculating, of course, but, what do I know?
On the details of the agreed upon peace negotiations, and in this sense, oil prices cratering. Look at the oil prices over the last few days and certainly over the last month. Down, collapsed by 10%.
I'm just saying.
$5 a barrel gets you $2 gasoline. We are $10 away, ladies and gentlemen, from being back.
No, the fuck you are not. $10 away from shit. You are not $10 away from fucking nada, Chief. You ain't got a fucking pot to piss in as far as that $10 is concerned. You shit me? Like, come on. Like, it doesn't take a genius to figure this out. Okay, that's where we were based upon the, again, rhetoric coming out of the White House. And then people wake up and see that it's bullshit, and then the markets react negatively, which is exactly what's been taking place, right? So, again, like we say, Brent crude is now at about 95, WTI at about 90, right? So to say that Benny Johnson looks like a moron here, to say that it's like, not only was it at that much, but it was going to stay at that much. And that's what he's telling his, his followers, his viewers, that it was going to be at that level consistently, if not lower, is just asinine, right? It's just not what we're seeing happen, not what experts are predicting, not what we're seeing take place in reality, none of that.
And look at the stock market back at record highs right now. The S&P 500 futures surge to their highest level on record, up 19%. Since the March 30th bottom. We're back, baby. And the reason why the markets are reacting like this with absolute...
The we're back, baby, is fucking wild. The we're back, baby, as we're, again, continuously engaged in this conflict. The strait's still closed, right? All of the things that were happening, we've seen more escalation in recent days than we have in, the weeks prior, right? So how everything's all of a sudden hunky-dory on fucking, on Benny Johnson Street is beyond me. I don't know. But it's crazy that somebody can live in la-la land like this and kind of, be out there making these levels of propaganda without I don't know, feeling some sort of embarrassment, the level of cringe that you'd feel if I was out there just lying every single day. I wouldn't be able to fucking look at myself. There's no way I'd be able to lay my head on the fucking pillow at the end of the night, right? I may get things wrong. I may do it, by mistake, right? I may flub up a word or get a fact incorrect, but that's not purposefully done. That's because I'm a human being, and that's what we all do. We all tend to make mistakes like that. But it is very purposefully done and calculated by Benny Johnson. The things that he speaks about, the things that he doesn't speak about. Like I said, he's made a clear and concise effort to block out all the negativity that is surrounding Donald Trump in his second term, and only try to report or do the propaganda of, the good aspects, the good side, or again, whatever he views as a good aspect or a good side of this administration, because again, there ain't fucking many to look at, if at all.
Down another 1%, and stock futures are roaring.
Hold on, let me see here. I'm going to see. Oh yeah, this is where he says, check this out.
Why? Well, one, Iran is allowing dozens of ships to cross through the Strait of Hormuz. You can actually track them.
Look at what he's showing. Where are the ships? I mean, he's trying to show this to showcase that, like, the strait is open, right? That's his message. Quite literally, a part of his thumbnail says open strait. That's what it is. You can see up top. Iran announces peace deal with Trump. Open strait. Oil crate is hot, right? So now he's trying to show this to showcase that the strait's back open. All of the ships. Where the fuck are where are the ships? There's a couple in there, right? I mean, we can see a couple, but there was hundreds and hundreds of ships that flowed through this strait prior to this war, if I'm not mistaken, right? I don't know the exact average that used to come through, but I believe it's in the hundreds. Again, correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. I'll be happy to correct myself, but this isn't detailing like a fully packed strait, right? This isn't detailing an open strait. I don't know why he even decided to play this. Like, there's nothing in there. There's 1, 2. He doesn't even know what types of ships these are. He doesn't know what they're carrying. He doesn't know shit.
And this marinetraffic.com tracker, you can see that there are ships that are navigating through and out. This was an area that you wouldn't find any ships. And there's
still no fucking ships. There are still no fucking ships. You're looking at maybe I'll give you 3 ships. I'll give you 3. Okay. Technically, it looks like there's about 1 ship in the actual Strait of Hormuz right there. I say 1 ship, which is this one right here. Right, these are the ones are I wouldn't even consider them inside the strait at that point. They're closer to land than they are to the middle of the body of the water. Like, this is how far you have to stretch yourselves in order to propagandize your audience. That's why it's not difficult, for leftists or progressives or liberals, whatever you call yourselves, to put together a podcast, to put together a show, right? There's just no clear cut, there's no agenda in it. It's just, okay, let's report on what's going on. We'll give you the facts, the figures, our opinions on it, whether good, bad, or indifferent for our side, your side, or her side, doesn't fucking matter, right? I don't care who it is, who we're talking about. Like, that's just, I feel like we're just more straight to the point, straight shooting. Not in all cases, obviously, but it's a lot more difficult. I feel it would be a lot more difficult to go out there and propagandize people to this extent. Like, yeah, look at this empty strait that I'm showing you right here per the GPS, and I'm going to sit here and tell you that it's like a wide open and there's a ton of ships going through. Meanwhile, you're sitting there staring with your own 2 eyes at this fucking map that clearly details 1 ship in the Strait of Hormuz. 1 ship. What are you doing, Benny? God damn.
Of any type, anywhere, right here. But now you can see ships are navigating through, and you can check and track them in real time.
Yeah, look at them all. Woof! Look at them all. It's going to be difficult to keep up with all of those. So you got a notepad? Siri, can you help me with this? Nope, sorry. Shit, my phone just reacted. I shouldn't have said that. I knew that was a mistake. My apologies if your cell phone just reacted. If you're watching this as well. No, settle down. Nope, I didn't need you. Nope, that was a joke. You didn't have to. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Anyway, but that's Benny Johnson. We could dive on from this idiot trying to, again, tell us that the peace deal has been signed. The strait is opened. Whatever else he said that wasn't real, didn't actually happen, and was just all blatant lies, as it typically is. All right. Let's dive on to LBC here, because they're talking about this potential deal as well. And basically the fact that it is so bad and it's not going to be anywhere remotely good for the United States. So bad, in fact, that even some Republicans are calling out, this potential deal. I think this is from a couple days ago, so this might not include some of the most recent news or most recent happenings that have been going on here, but I think it's still very relevant. I don't think many of the talking points of the details from the Iranian side have changed throughout this entire talk. A lot of the talking points, the sticking points, the things that they want to agree to or see happen have been pretty consistent. So again, this is from, I think, 2 days ago. So I think it's pretty relevant as well. And this is, again, like I said, LBC talking about the potential deal that is not a potential deal in a ceasefire. That's not really a ceasefire of a strait that was already closed, but also blockaded. If you can follow all this. I know it's crazy.
Simon, there's a few things to get into. Thank you for joining us. Let's start first with this breaking news that we've seen from President Trump, if that's all right, on Truth Social, just to tell listeners the blockade will remain in full force and effect until an agreement is reached, certified and signed. Both sides must take their time and get it right. Simon, your interpretation of that. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Henry. Look, he's been on the receiving end of incoming from furious Republicans for the last 12 hours. Since his previous Truth Social posting in which he revealed that he'd had this big conversation on Saturday afternoon with leaders across the Middle East, that there was a possible ceasefire extension in the offing, that the Strait of Hormuz was going to be reopened as part of this. Then details started tumbling out from Middle Eastern governments, Iranian sources, and those details deeply worried and indeed infuriated some very senior Republican lawmakers.
And like I said, the details that he's discussing are pretty consistent with the details. And again, take it with a grain of salt. If in fact they make it into whatever negotiations are in fact to come out of this, then it's likely that they're going to remain consistent. And the things that he's talking about here are pretty relevant to at least even the new details that we've heard today being talked about,
including Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, Senator Lindsey Graham.
When you talk about the enriched uranium not fully coming out of Iran, that being put off for 60 days, obviously the return of billions of dollars in frozen assets, like those are all going to be sticking points that Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, the rest of these people are not going to like to see. Obviously, it's going to give the world a reason in a pretty clear example to be like, well, the United States came out of this on the losing end. We're worse off than we were before this war started. We're definitely not better off by any stretch of the imagination. And any deal that is signed is inevitably going to make the Iranians more powerful on the world stage. You're going to have to give them more prestige on the world stage and respect their ability to, again, engage in military action, engage in control over the Strait of Hormuz based on what they've been able to do, how they've been able to defend against Israel and the United States, how long they've been able to hold off the United States, how long they've been able to withstand the blockade from the United States. Like all of these things are going to have to be, respected. And I'm sure people are taking notice and recognizing that. And like I said, any deal that gives them billions of dollars is clearly flying in the face of anything the Republicans have said. That's going to be, tenfold, if not more, anything that they blamed Obama for sending over during the JCPOA. Obviously, we had much better terms, much better a much better look at what was going on over there with the enriched uranium through the JCPOA than anything that's going to come out of this deal. It's pretty plain and clear from any of the experts, from all the experts that have been looking at this.
Of South Carolina, a very influential foreign policy voice in the president's ear, who took to social media to say, in the case of Lindsey Graham, based on what he was hearing about what the president may be on the verge of agreeing to, he couldn't really understand why the war had been started in the first place, because both Senator Cruz and Senator Graham and many others argued that this was tantamount to basically an American surrender to the Iranian regime that will be
Again, this is leaving Donald Trump in a very difficult position, a position that we saw coming. We said at the very beginning of this, he's painting himself into a corner. It's very easy to start a war, very difficult to get yourself out of one. And again, the route, the path that he was choosing was leaving him kind of absolutely no options besides escalation or capitulation. option, right? He was either going to come out of this having, erased the civilization of Iran, or he was going to come out of this signing a deal that was going to make the United States worse off in relations with the United States and make Iran more powerful, on the geopolitical stage than they were just prior to this. And obviously, people are going to have to deal with different aspects and problems now that weren't problems before the war started, hence the Strait of Hormuz, right? So, all of this is kind of painting Donald Trump into a corner. He's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't at this point. You know what I mean? He's going to get shit from his own side. He's getting pressure, obviously, from the American people because of the raise in prices. He's getting pressure now from his own Republican Party because of the shit deal that he's now going to have to be forced to sign, if any deal is signed at all. And then, obviously, the other option is just continued and ongoing escalation, death and destruction, murdering of civilians, war crimes, and kind of there's really no good option at this point for Donald Trump. But that's kind of the position that he's left himself in.
In place, that in and of itself is anathema, particularly to Senator Lindsey Graham, but also without securing any guarantees that at the end of the day, the Iranians were not going to be able to rebuild their nuclear program. All of that was going to be kicked down the road for 60 days while you kind of sort of resolved the Strait of Hormuz issue, although there were huge questions about the nature of that, while also giving the Iranians a promise that if they negotiated and signed and sealed a full-scale peace deal within the next 60 days, they would enjoy a waiver on American sanctions against the sale of oil and would secure billions of dollars in unfrozen, in assets, Iranian assets that are currently frozen here, that those would be unfrozen. And let me tell you why that strikes a real nerve for Republicans. President Trump for months has publicly humiliated Barack Obama for unfreezing $400 million, not billion, $400 million, and literally flying the cash to Iran back in January of 2016. Now, suddenly, Republicans are being asked to swallow the idea that Donald Trump might unfreeze billions with a B of frozen Iranian assets, exactly the kind of war chest that they worry the regime could then use to rebuild its ability to be a military threat, not only to the United States.
Well, again, wouldn't that be a fucking very logical thought? Right? Wouldn't that be, for a regime and Donald Trump that says if they had a nuclear weapon, they wouldn't hesitate to use it. So if we sent them billions of dollars, what's to say they would hesitate to use that for nefarious purposes? You know what I mean? If you're saying that the Iranians, if they had a nuclear weapon, and of course this is the rhetoric, this is the statements and the thinking coming from Donald Trump, not myself, but he says if they did in fact have access to a nuclear weapon, they'd use it in a heartbeat. They wouldn't blink, they wouldn't think twice, they wouldn't hesitate for a moment to use it. But we'll send them billions of dollars and think they're not going to replenish their missiles and their drones? They're not going to utilize that to somehow continue the enrichment of uranium or to get closer to a nuclear weapon? At this point, that's what I'd do. Doesn't seem like the United States really cares, other than the fact that if you have a nuclear weapon, it's the only way that they respect you. It's the only way that they actually are enforced in some way to take you seriously, is if you do in fact get to that point, which is why this has sent a clear and concise message to the wrong people on the planet that they need to do everything they possibly can. If they can't get a nuclear weapon, then they have to get the biggest and baddest weapons they can possibly stockpile, and as fucking many of them as humanly possible, to again have the best negotiating stance against the United States when the United States under Donald Trump inevitably comes knocking on their fucking door. Right. So that's the message that this is sent. Unless you have a nuclear weapon, you can't, if you're Kim Jong-un, if you're Vladimir Putin, right, the list goes on to people that can then have kind of walked all over Donald Trump because they have a nuclear weapon. Right. So it's pretty clear to see in that space.
States, but particularly to its allies, America's allies and partners in the region, including, of course, the possibility that some of that money would flow to Hezbollah in Lebanon to rebuild that Iranian proxy. So Republicans are incandescent about this deal that President Trump appears to be considering. They think that this is the Iran nuclear deal all over again, and potentially even weaker than that. And so now
definitely,
you see,
without a doubt, weaker than that. I think that's pretty fucking clear to everybody, right?
Donald Trump taking to Truth Social to say, basically, I've heard what you're saying. Of course, we're going to give this all the time that it needs. I think it raises huge questions about whether that 60-day extended ceasefire is going to be able to go ahead. It's also, by the way, not just Republican law.
Again, like I said, this was questions being raised before. This was a couple days ago, so this was before the recent attacks. I'm not sure if this was before or after the Monday strikes, right? But this was definitely before yesterday's strikes, last night's strikes as well. So making it even more unlikely, one would logically assume, for that deal to come into play, if in fact that deal was ever in play to begin with. But like I said, that was LBC Simon Marks there going over from just a couple days ago the reaction from the Republican side, again showing the pressure that Donald Trump is getting from all angles. Basically, like I said, he's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't at this point in time. So what do you say we jump on to the fun half, as I typically call it here? A couple Lego videos to jump into. I know it's been a couple days, been a couple shows since we had a look at these. They're kind of flying in hot and heavy. We got one here from AI Iran, and then who's this other one from? I forget now. It might be from Explosive Media or Acon. I think it's from the Acon site there. So let's see what this first one is. This says, "Not on my watch, new Lego video from AI Iran." And again, we just typically take a look at these, see what trouble we can get into. Hit that like button. I really do appreciate you guys for joining me. And like I said, we'll go on after these videos real quick, and then we'll take a look at the updates coming from Ukraine. And then I want to take a look at this PBS Frontline special, if I can, detailing how Trump's inner circle helped pave the road to war with Iran. And again, this is part of a bigger series, a bigger documentary. And not only does it give you kind of like that chilling view, like that chilling look at like just how historical this is. I don't know, somehow PBS Frontline has that way when they speak about something of making it just like, I don't know, making it very prominent or making it very meaningful or important like that. So as this is taking place, like they're still in power. These are being made. These PBS Frontline specials are being made. So I just wanted to go through. That was just a quick clip. I think it's less than 7 minutes there of obviously a longer broadcast, but stick around. We'll dive into that right after these Lego videos. Like I said, this first one's going to be from Lego Iran. Let's see what trouble they're getting into now.
Every prophet walked this fire. Every truth cuts through the liar. Whole world watching, slaughter daily. Only one says not on my watch. Plainly, we don't bow, we don't sell, we don't buy what you sell. The last wall standing, that's Iran. Every child buried, what they've done. The last wall standing, that's Iran. We don't bow to bow, we never run. They slaughter kids on the schedule, call it self-defense. You went bought and sold, the price was immense. Guys are burning, kids dying, cameras on. Every government silent, pockets full, backbone gone. UAE shaking hands, Saudi counting that check. We're Muslim like a costume, but they Zionist projects. Created ISIS, gave them cash in the trucks, but they never touched Zionists. Man, what the luck? MBS and MBZ, even better with Netanyahu. Wild Al Jolani in your pocket, playing Muslim for a while. You created fake Islams, put them on the shelf, sold them to the world like it's the good Muslim self. Shia Sunni, they been pushing that division, but Imam said one Ummah, that was always the vision. Even Christians know if Jesus walked today, first place, he flipped tables. Tel Aviv, no delay. Every prophet walked this fire. Every truth cuts through the liar. Whole world watching, slaughter daily. Only one says not on my watch. Plainly, we don't bow, we don't sell, we don't buy what you sell. The last wall standing, that's Iran. Every child buries what they done. The last wall standing, that's Iran. We don't bow to bow, we never run. Every treaty sign, they stab the bag. Same play, but they used on the native tracks. Billions on propaganda, celebrities on payroll. Still couldn't stop the love for Iran and every free soul. Tired of the wars, the lies, the same old spin. We ain't your enemy.
Was that Uncle Sam as an octopus covering the globe there? Hold on.
He's on payroll. Still couldn't stop the love for Iran and every free soul. Tired of
There you go. There's Uncle Sam as an octopus spreading his tentacles all over the globe. I mean, again, if that's not just a very apt and accurate representation of the United States under Donald Trump, especially militarily, I'm not sure what kind of gets the point across better at that point.
It was the lies, the same old spin. We ain't your enemy. We never have been. We pay with our pockets every sanction, every price. We bled for this truth. We didn't think twice. But that empire of hearts, man, it's already here. Every conscience that won't sleep is Iran's frontier.
History will remember who stood when it mattered.
Keep your sanctions.
Keep your propaganda.
Read the nation of Hussein.
We don't bow to Yazid.
Damn, goddamn. All right. So that's that one from Lego. AI, I ran from that one. They continue with the heaters here, continuing with the heaters. And this next one here is from Akon. We've taken a look at a few of these videos here as well. I'm not sure what this one is actually pertaining to. It says here, "Are you okay, Mr. President?" Sounds like it's detailing maybe Donald Trump's health complications lately, maybe his erratic behavior. Let's see what again trouble we can get into on this one. This is from Akon.
They said Joe Biden wasn't fit to lead. Said America needed strength, sharpness, stability. But lately, America's been watching a different kind of confusion unfold in real time.
Are you okay,
Mr. President, the country watching every post you send, every midnight ring, every public slip, every moment that feels like the pressure finally hit. Are you okay,
Mr. President?
or is power breaking you again? Yeah. 6-month medicals, hours in the clinic, doctor saying healthy.
Oh shit!
Everything to
They're going after his Walter Reed visits. Oh goddamn! Well, goddamn, they're going after his Walter Reed visits. So they're talking about his frequent trips to the doctor here, if I'm not mistaken.
perfect. That's the official line from the press release. But the internet seeing something different every week. One morning he posted private text publicly. Mike, thanks for the kind words on TV. Supposed to stay backstage, ended on the feet.
And I believe that's referencing one of his recent True Social posts in which people are suspecting it was another one of his private messages, or what was supposed to be a private message that he inevitably posted on True Social for everybody to see, thanking somebody for their giving him praise and his kind words they gave on television. So obviously that's being thrown in here. Just again, they're taking any little Easter egg that they can find. They're throwing into these videos, baby. Play.
Now America reading presidential DMs accidentally. Then the Bondi post leaked right to the screen. Talking prosecutions publicly. Call me shift enemies listed by name. Deleted fast. But everybody saw the game. And this ain't isolated anymore. It's becoming a pattern people can't ignore. Late night posting marathons past midnight. 150 messages in one night. That don't sound calm. That don't sound
150 messages in one night. They got him up here sitting at the computer at 3 a.m. banging out True Social posts that make absolutely no sense.
steady. That sound like somebody unraveling already. Are you okay,
Mr. President?
the pressure looking heavier than ever been, you said.
Oh shit, he's surrounded by a shitload of McDonald's. Look at the French fries and the burgers behind him, the Big Macs.
It wasn't fit to lead.
But America now asking what they seeing. Then came the medbed, the situation. AI, fantasy, soul, light, innovation. Magic healing machines on a social feed. Shared by the president casually. That shook doctors, that shook analysts too. Because misinformation hits different coming from.
Like I said, some of these get long at some point, so we don't have to dive into the entirety of that. But you can see they're going after Donald Trump's Walter Reed visits, his, I don't know, what do you call them? Biannual. They're not even biannual at this point. They're like, I don't know, fucking every it's an annual checkup, but he has to have it once a month at this point in time. So you go figure how that works. But, the excuse is that he's having either dental work done or it's just, he's shaking hands with the he's shaking hands with the vets at Walter Reed. It's really nothing to do with his own health complications, but that's bullshit at every turn when you look at the bruises on his hands, the marks on his neck, his fucking cankles, his, cognitive decline, sleeping in front of everybody, can't keep his goddamn eyes open to save his life. All those things are kind of telling us one aspect. The guy's on a fucking rapid downhill decline, and we're here for it. So, all right, let's see if we can throw this on before I run out of time. This is the PBS Frontline special. Just a little clip from that talking about how Trump's inner circle paved the road for the Iran war. I think it talks about how J.D. Vance wasn't initially on board. Susie Wiles wasn't initially on board, but it was, Benjamin Netanyahu's convincing and Donald Trump's ignorance and stupidity ultimately that led to this. So like I said, I just want to jump into a couple minutes of this. And like I was stating, this is coming from a longer Frontline special here, PBS Frontline special. So if you want to head over there and check out the rest of this, I would absolutely recommend that. And for some reason, again, like it has a way of making it seem like history that had happened previously, but we're actually living through it right now. Like I said, there's a ton of Frontline PBS specials on Putin and different aspects of Russia and the war in Ukraine. And it's like, it's a look back, but this is actually a look at right now, which is, it's a little strange to see. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, this is the PBS Frontline special talking about Trump's war cabinet and how the inner circle helped pave the road for the war with Iran. Appreciate you guys, and shout out and credit where credit is due to PBS Frontline special. Hopefully there's no copyright infringement or anything like that. I don't see why there would be. Should be freedom of speech and public access to this information and content. So whatever I have to say to make it so, that's what I'm going to say. Make it so. All right, there we go. Let's dive into it real quick.
He said, you get the Ayatollahs out, you bring about regime change in Iran, and school books will write about you, history books will write about you. Just think of the generations to come who will be talking about you.
Netanyahu also warned Trump that once Israel struck,
and again, this is talking about the comments that Benjamin Netanyahu made to Donald Trump. This is kind of picking it up halfway. Like I said, this is just a kind of a snippet, a clip from this as well, just a less than 7-minute clip from this. But this is talking about the coercing that Benjamin Netanyahu had to bestow upon Donald Trump to get him involved in this, to get him to go along with this. Like he knew the buttons to press. Like he knew exactly what to say. The history books will write about you. People will love you and praise you for the rest of your days. Like that's exactly what Donald Trump wants and fucking seeks out there. Like that's what he longs for. So obviously that was going to have some sway. That was going to make his mind up for him in some way, shape, or form. And he was just, like I said, the president in power, dumb enough, ignorant enough, gullible enough to go along with this.
and missiles would hit American targets in the region too.
The president came to the realization that the head of the snake has to go, and we have to change the way we engage with Iran now, or presidents 5 decades from now will still be stuck playing whack-a-mole in the Middle East.
Now, once again, the president was on the precipice of launching yet another war.
President Trump takes this back to his wartime cabinet, and they all are providing their opinions, many of which say that they don't agree.
There was a lot of things that they put on the table that could happen. There were all of these risks in terms of the global economy, the ability of Iran to wage a quite asymmetric war.
The one cabinet member that was pretty gung-ho was Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth.
I mean, does that shock anybody? Does that really fucking shock anybody? The guy that loves war, the guy that threatens time and time again to go in there and end the job, finish the job, end these people. You know, all the bullshit rhetoric we've heard coming from this fucking bastard, right? The guy that couldn't even make the weekday couch on Fox News was fucking relegated to the weekend couch. This drunk piece of shit, right? He's the one that was all gung-ho for this. You'll hear here that Susie Wiles, J.D. Vance, as was previously reported, were, kind of very skeptical, to say the least, about whether or not this would be a good idea, which is why we've seen pretty consistently J.D. Vance try to distance himself as best as possible without making it some sort of, sideshow, without making it too blatantly obvious that he doesn't fully support this. But again, it's no surprise to hear that, this drunken piece of shit was all gung-ho about the death of innocent civilians, and obviously the thought of committing war crimes as the leader of the Pentagon was just, it was too much for him. It was just all too exciting for him.
He has just been so gung-ho to carry out the president's military adventurism without question or pushback. Even the sort of yes men that we've seen around the president have felt like Hegseth has taken it a bit too far, and that you do need to be.
Even the yes men around the president, the yes men that we know are constantly surrounding Donald Trump, that again we brought up in the cabinet meeting the other day where he mixed up Iran and Venezuela, but nobody had the fucking balls, right? Nobody had the sack in that room to be like, sorry, sir, you made a mistake. You might want to correct yourself. That way, the media doesn't take this and run with it, or, the fake news doesn't get a soundbite, whatever way they could have put it in that situation. None of them spoke up. Nobody said a goddamn thing. Nobody's going to tell him that he's wrong. They're all going to tell him that he's right. But even in that situation, even with those fucking sycophantic cocksuckers surrounding this piece of shit, Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth somehow stands out above the rest as being more willing to get on his knees, right? More willing to sniff the taint of Donald Trump and to get down there and lick them fucking boots to say, yes, sir, can I have another? What do you need, sir? Tell me to jump so I can ask you how high how high I need to jump. So it's again, the amount of sycophants and yes men that's around Donald Trump. Even Pete Hegseth has somehow separated himself in that class as being the worst of the worst. And again, he's the one, the head of the Pentagon. He got the military power in his hands and is the one just fucking itching to go down there and pull the trigger in any, region of the world, whether it's South America, whether it's, in the Middle East or anywhere else that we've been talking about. He's fucking ready, willing, and quite able to do the deeds and the dirty work of Donald Trump as it pertains to military action.
Be a lot more transparent about the risks that are involved in a military operation. And many people we talk to around the president are not really sure that Hegseth does that.
If Hegseth wasn't putting on the brakes, there was another military man that could, General Dan Kane.
General Kane, chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, had deep reservations about embarking on this war with Iran and had let other members of the administration.
So even the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, right? Dan Kane here, Raisin Kane, as fucking Trump loves to call him, was sitting there being like, sir, this doesn't sound like a good idea, right? I mean, I don't know exactly what he was saying, but it sounds like, as the reporting goes, and is suggested that he was quite skeptical of what was being presented to Donald Trump by Benjamin Netanyahu, the IDF, and Mossad. It sounds like, there were more people that were skeptical of this than they were on the side of going for this, right? Sounds like Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, and Pete Hegseth were kind of on an island by themselves as far as, trying to see this through rose-tinted glasses and saying that there was no negative aspects that could come from this. I think they even discuss here how, blatant it would be for the war gaming for people to be like, okay, the Strait of Hormuz is definitely going to be something that they're going to try to control, and how ridiculous it would be to not try to mitigate that retaliation, not to have some, plans in place to make sure that that wasn't possible after your initial strikes. So it goes on to discuss even further here. But, it's not, like I said, strange to hear or surprising to hear that Benjamin Netanyahu, Trump, and Pete Hegseth were kind of on this island by themselves and had to, coerce the rest of these people to go along with it, basically.
Know that he had doubts about the efficacy and the strategic objectives of the mission. And it was Susie Wiles who pressed General Kane to be more forthright with President Trump, feeling like some people were holding back on what they really assessed were the precarious possibilities of starting a war with Iran.
We saw Dan Kane really lay out all of the risks of what could happen. One of the ones, obviously, the Strait of Hormuz.
This choke point, the Strait of Hormuz, they've been in every Pentagon war game over decades.
They've been in every Pentagon war game over decades, he said. Talking about the Strait of Hormuz. Every Pentagon war game over the last decade or so has involved the Strait of Hormuz as a retaliation you can expect from the Iranian side if, in fact, we had some engagement, military conflict, and we decided to engage in some strikes, whatever the war gaming situation would be. The Strait of Hormuz was the fucking, if not the main thing, one of the main things that you would expect in retaliation from the Iranian side. So again, to sit here and undertake this war and not have that, the mitigatory resources in place to make sure that Iran couldn't clamp down on the Strait of Hormuz, to make sure that we had our Navy already in place so that their attack boats, their boats couldn't lay mines, they couldn't, whatever it may be. We had already taken out the missile sites in and around the Strait of Hormuz so they couldn't lob missiles, whatever it may be, to enact or to ensure that the Iranians couldn't do that wasn't done. wasn't done whatsoever. It wasn't even thought about. Didn't seem like it was even remotely on the minds of Donald Trump as far as being something he could likely see in return. The strikes into our, the allies in the Gulf nations, the strikes obviously and the damage seen to the U.S. bases, and obviously the death to our military service members. That doesn't seem to be taken into account, or was never taken into account by this piece of shit.
Not be a remote surprise to anybody.
The military knew all this, and Trump was definitely briefed on it. We know that.
Those who heard about the deliberations say Marco Rubio didn't take a stand.
Marco Rubio is a shrewd enough operator that he kept a very firm distance from putting himself in one camp.
Because he's a fucking coward. That's why. He's a careerist pig. That's why. That's something you heard a lot. You'll hear a lot in documentaries. You'll hear a lot in World War II movies. You'll hear a lot when, looking at the diaries or the biographies of Nazis or people that were living in Germany. Like, a lot of these people were just careerist pigs. They knew what they were doing was wrong. They knew what they were doing was illegal. They knew it was corrupt. They knew it was murderous. But again, they did it for proximity of power or their financial enrichment, right? Or to, again, further their political aspirations, whatever it may be. That's why they did this, and they're willing to do whatever it takes, even if, again, it's against their principles and beliefs, even though these fucking soulless hacks don't have any of those. But again, if it's against what they previously espoused, doesn't matter, as long as if it gets them up that ladder, as long as it continues to get them up that rung of again, power or prestige or financial gain. These are fucking coward. That's why.
For another. He would present an analysis in one direction and in another direction to help the president come to his decision. But he was someone who really stayed clear out of taking a firm stance.
The one that we know who pushed back was Vice President Vance.
J.D. Vance was one of the fiercest opponents of getting involved in this conflict. He said it might get us into a situation that it has spiraled out of our control, that we can decide how wars start, but we don't know how they're going to end.
And you know what? The reporters better start using these fucking words, these quotes against J.D. Vance, right? This isn't secretive. This is fucking PBS Frontline. This should be something that people are watching, people are seeing, people should clip out, post on social media, and these questions should be asked of J.D. Vance every single fucking time that maggot is in front of a camera or a microphone or anything. Hey, this is what you said. The reports are, and everybody's stating here from multiple different people, that you were highly against this war and you recognize how difficult of a situation it could put us in and is likely to put us in. Can you speak on that? What are your feelings now? Why do you continue to support this illegal, unconstitutional, destabilizing war that you seem to have had knowledge and information about before it started, that it was going to be of, to our detriment? As a country, obviously as a world economy. So again, we should be pressing these cocksuckers, pressing these bastards at every fucking turn with this information that we now know. And again, make him answer the questions. Say alleged, say reported, say anonymous, whatever the fuck you got to say, but make him answer these fucking questions. Make him squirm in his little fucking cheap piece of shit suit that he's wearing every single time.
This happened time and time again. You rose to power on this promise. This will cause a rupture with our own base. If you break that promise, it could be a very serious rupture.
And I think J.D. Vance wasn't thinking along the lines of the benefit of the American people or the detriment to the American people, but again, along the careerist pig line, thinking about his own proximity to power, his own political aspirations, and he knows if he's the vice president and he's associated and affiliated with the worst fucking presidency of all time, the most corrupt presidency in the history of this country, if not the fucking world, definitely in the running, if he's involved with, an administration that promised no new wars but did nothing but start new wars, if he's involved and associated with, an administration that came in and promised to lower the prices of everything, but in fact went on to quadruple, if not in some cases more than that, the prices that people have to spend or what you have to pay to live your daily life, he knows that's not going to be politically expedient for him. That's not going to look good when he tries to run in 2028 or beyond. So he's even got the wherewithal, the guy that's changed his name 14 fucking times, the guy that went from a Donald Trump hater, a never Trumper, to Donald Trump is the Antichrist, he's America's Hitler, to now being his vice fucking president, right? Doesn't get to that position without being a careerist pig, without being a fucking chameleon, right? Without knowing how to manipulate the system and to act and to portray himself as something that he's absolutely fucking not, to get ahead. right? So that's exactly what he's going to do. And he recognizes that, no, even this reporting is good for him. Right, even the reporting out there to suggest that he was against this going on in the future, he'll be able to use that, right? Which is why it would have been so good of John Fetterman, that fucking demented piece of shit, to put J.D. Vance in the position to be the tie-breaking vote on the War Powers resolution. J.D. Vance would have had to come in and decide that, and it would have basically eliminated all of this reporting. Not to say that it's going to be, effective or beneficial at all, but he's going to try to use it, right? He's definitely going to look back and say, well, look at the reporting. There was reporting out there that said I wasn't happy with it, but there's also the time, every single instance after that in which you defended it, never called it out, and went with every single action. So again, you don't have that fucking pot to piss in, Chief. Again, you have nothing to stand on, but I would recommend that people go and check out, if not the rest of this clip, definitely the longer form content there from Frontline PBS. I think they do a fantastic job. And like I said, just the way it's put together, and I'm sure a lot of you guys in the chat here know what I'm talking about with like the Putin specials, different world leaders, throughout history that the Frontline documentaries have touched on, and kind of that I don't know, like I said, it's tough for me to put into words that air of importance, or you know what I mean? It's like it's strange to be living through it as they're making those. Like I feel like it's something that they typically do of things that happen in the past. I know I'm probably not explaining it correctly, but hopefully you understand to a certain extent of what I'm trying to get across. But let's hop into some of the updates here from the front lines in Ukraine, as we typically do. We are here for the people of Ukraine, for the military of Ukraine. We are huge supporters. It is very, 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 very important to me. It is, very near and dear to my heart, the support against the Russian invaders, and obviously for the people of Ukraine. And we do as much as humanly possible to keep everybody informed and up to speed with obviously things going on domestically, while also trying to, touch base on what's been taking place and continues to take place with Ukraine in their fight against Russia. So let me throw this on the screen. This is from the military show, as we look at every now and again. This is Ukraine is taking everything back. Russia's front lines are collapsing, and other Ukraine war stories. And again, just gives me, another instance in which I have to reel in the military show per their thumbnails here. The front lines of, Russia's front lines, it says they're collapsing here. I wouldn't go that far, right? They're not doing well. They're not having much success, but to what extent they're collapsing, I think is an overstatement. Let's just say I like to keep us grounded. We report on the good things. We unfortunately have to report on the bad aspects, and I try not to, try not to make it hyperbole, right? We try not to get out in front of our skis, not to fantasize basically about what's been taking place based off of thumbnails and headlines alone, right? So again, just another instance in which I have to reel them back, but obviously some good things to report here. So we got this video, and then we'll end on this one here, which I'm dying to look at as well, because this is from BFBS Forces News, says how Ukraine is systematically strangling Russia's supply lines. And I think that's going to be touching base on, again, the Zaporizhia front down into Crimea, the Melitopol to Mariupol highway, and obviously Ukrainians' ongoing and continued success that they've seen taking out the supply vehicles traveling those routes. So stick around for that as well. But let's dive into this one real quick. This is, again, the military show. The Ukraine is taking everything back. This might detail around Stepnorisk as well. So let's dive into it. Heroyam Slava. Slava Ukraine. Heroyam Slava. I appreciate you guys.
The spring has arrived, and Russia is supposed to be making its war-ending offensive. Finally, cover is appearing and the weather is getting better, but the same old story is playing out for Putin. He orders advances and his soldiers die. Russia just had its worst month of the entire war, and Ukraine had its best.
I feel like we hear that every month now.
The spring offensive has collapsed, and
Am I
Russia's
crazy?
war machine.
Right? Am I crazy, or do we hear that every month? Like every month is now Russia's worst month of the war. Like we heard that astronomical 35,000 number. We've heard the ridiculous percentage of like 95 to 96% of the casualties on the Russian side were suffered at the hands of Ukrainian drone activity, which is just fucking mind-blowing considering where this war started with, armored personnel carriers, with tanks and armored, columns, heading into Kyiv, and the way the war was fought even months after that, to what we're looking at now is just such a drastic fucking change is wild. And those changes continue. I think we talked about on the show the other day 3 or 4 different Ukrainian advancements as far as war technology is concerned in one podcast that we talked about, which is just a clear indication as to their ingenuity, their effectiveness, and their ability to progress in the technology here that is necessary to defeat Russia at some point.
But record casualties, a new milestone reached, and an advance rate so humiliating that Russia may as well have spent March doing absolutely nothing are all lowlights for Putin that we're going to explore as the video goes on. But we're going to start with what Ukraine has done directly to make March 2026 the worst month of the war so far for Putin's forces. And we can sum that up in 3 words. Ukraine hit everything. As Russia begins its spring...
Yeah, I think it was like 3 or 4 different advancements, right? I think it was the unjammable drone, right? And then we talked about the drone that they had that was able to utilize, what were they, like rocket type of ammunitions that would be able to be resupplied, and they weren't kamikaze drones, and they could be reused, which would obviously be a benefit. And I'm blanking on what the other ones were, but there was, obviously substantial advancements being made, every single day.
Push that is supposed to deliver the inevitable into Putin's lap. Ukraine has been amplifying its deep strike strategy to a level that Russia never expected. Strategic targets have been hit all over Russia in what Euromaidan press dubs a March harvest. 5 factories, 10 oil refineries, oil plants, and air defenses have all been destroyed.
And a partridge in a pear tree. Boom.
With Ukraine's Ministry of Defense itself stating that March 2026 has been one of the largest months in terms of the sheer number of strategic targets that Ukraine has hit inside Russia itself.
Man, a lot of Russians just carelessly smoking, man. They got to be really more careful where they ditch those Russian cigarettes. I mean, it's just crazy. They continue to smoke near these really flammable fucking substances. I don't know why they continue to do it, but you can see what it leads to. Big boom, big fire.
Let's start with the factories then. 5 of Russia's key factories have been hit over the course of the month, starting with the Kremny L plant, which is in the border region of Bryansk. Known as one of Russia's largest
just look at the wide range of strikes, though. You know what I mean? We're talking about all the way from down in Crimea, up into, northern Russia there. Northern Russia as it pertains to what's on your screen, at least, all the way into central Russia, obviously down in the Pokrovsk front and in and around that area as well. So it's like all over the place, and the Russians are getting hammered, and obviously the people of Russia are starting to recognize the lack of control that the Russian military has over these strikes, and the lack of air defenses in place to mitigate the damages seen and will continue to see from these Ukrainian drone strikes that are likely not only to continue but to escalate. They're going to not only get more heavy in terms of the amounts of drones that are up in the air, but obviously in their frequency as well. So something that Robert Madyar has promised several times to the Russian people and seems to be following through on pretty successfully, if I do say so myself.
Electronic Enterprises. This factory is where Russia makes the microchips that are later placed inside its Iskander ballistic missiles, as well as in its air defenses. Ukraine has ruined this factory by taking out a production building and a component warehouse used to store the equipment that Russia needs to make its missile chips. Russia's entire missile supply chain fell apart with this one strike. For the next 6 months, Russia won't be able to make the microchips it needs for many of its missiles. Repairs have to be completed. And with Bryansk being so close to the border with Ukraine, we're willing to bet that the Security Service of Ukraine, or SBU, is watching and waiting for Russia to get just about so far with its repair work before another drone or 10 is launched to take out the Kremny L plant once again. That's just one of 5. In Ulyanovsk, Ukraine hit the Aviastar aircraft plant, taking out a climate-controlled shelter and several of the Il-76 and Il-78 aircraft being stored at the plant. Aviastar makes and maintains heavy transport aircraft, Euromaidan press reports, so losing it has a crippling effect on Russian logistics. No heavy cargo aircraft means a slowdown in the shuttling of equipment and troops throughout Russia and Ukraine. Plus, Ukraine took out a plant that keeps Russia's aerial refueling tankers in good condition.
So again, all going to hamper the resupply efforts of the Russian military. Again, whether it's the ongoing attacks on the Crimea highway, as it's referenced sometimes, or again, these ongoing strikes in different parts and different regions of the country, whether it's occupied territory in Ukraine or inside Russian territory itself, all going to hamper the Russians' efforts to resupply. And obviously having success on the front lines, as it pertains to the Ukrainians' ability to retake settlements or to hold off the Russians in general. But, good to
we'll
see.
see an impact on Russia's aerial power too. The hits keep on coming with the 123rd Aircraft Repair Plant, which is in Staraya Russa in the Novgorod Oblast of Russia. Yet more of Ukraine's rained down and they hit hangars storing Il-76 aircraft, along with hitting missile defense aircraft, and the storage facilities Russia uses to keep its anti-aircraft missiles safe. This was yet another blow against Russia's aircraft maintenance facilities, which, in turn, puts even more pressure on Russia's internal logistics. Next up was Alchevsk and the metallurgical plant that carries the region's name. Ukraine's strike caused a massive fire at the facility, which builds artillery shell casings and is involved in the production of the armored steel that is used in a lot of the military equipment required by the Russian armed forces. So
again, you can see the Ukrainians just going after any aspect of the war that Russia is trying to utilize to obviously continue furthering their war. Whether it's ammunition, whether it's chips, whether it's vehicles, ammunition, planes, anything that they can target and strike, they are targeting and striking. Which is, again, having some serious impacts on the Russians' ability to fight this war, and hopefully that continues. But let me see if we can throw this one on here, because I'm excited to kind of see what information we can get into on this one as well, considering this is something that has been, pretty widespread and kind of, only ramping up in success as far as the Ukrainian side is concerned. So this is, again, the BS Forces News, as it's called here. Got 1 million subscribers. This was put out May 27th. So yesterday, and it's talking about how Ukraine is systematically strangling Russia's supply line. So right in line with what we were just discussing in that last video as well. So let's throw this one on the screen. We'll get this, get through a couple minutes of this, and I'll get you guys out of here. Thanks some people for their kind and generous contributions to the channel. I'll give you guys a salute, and you guys can be on your way for the day. All right, I appreciate you guys. Slava Ukraina, Heroyam Slava. Thank you so much to the chat, and thank you so much to the best chat on earth. Very much appreciate you guys.
Something very significant is happening in Crimea, and it's not just another round of drone strikes or isolated sabotage attacks. What we're watching right now is a coordinated Ukrainian campaign to systematically choke Russian logistics across the entire southern front. Ukrainian UAVs are hammering Russian fuel convoys, ammunition trucks, rail hubs, and supply columns moving through occupied Crimea, and also along the land corridor into Kherson and Zaporizhia. Russian military bloggers are openly panicking about this because they know that if fuel, ammunition, reinforcements, and supplies stop moving, the Russian
so how many is this now? This is probably, I'd say, the third or fourth different video or content creator that talks about the war, that dives deep into these aspects, that is now recognizing, now talking about, and bringing up the fact that the Russian mill bloggers and people on the Russian side that cover the war are more and more likely able and willing to call out the destruction, the negative aspects of the war, the ways in which the Russian military is failing, the ways in which the Ukrainian military is succeeding, something that, previously in previous years of the war, they were unlikely to do. Even if they did recognize it, it wasn't something that they were going to put on social media, wasn't something that they were going to talk about or risk, kind of retaliation from the government. But more and more people now speaking up, both inside of the country of Russia and also people that have fled the country, speaking up against it as well, calling out, obviously, the ineffectiveness of the leadership, and obviously the lies that's being told, whether it's about territory gained, the amount of success they've seen in taking out Ukrainian forces, whatever it may be. They're now starting to see the negative aspects of those lies and the propaganda coming back to bite them in the ass, with their Russian mill bloggers more likely to call it out, which is not a good sign for the Russians.
Is going to be in dire straits. Ukraine increasingly understands that, and its interdiction campaign, its deliberate destruction of Russian logistics networks, is becoming one of the defining features of this phase of the war. Now, these attacks are specifically targeting Russian ground lines of communication, or GLOCs, the routes that connect Crimea to Russian forces fighting in southern Ukraine. Crimea is central to Russia's southern war effort. It's a giant military hub where troops, fuel, ammunition, drones, and spare parts all move before being destroyed.
So you can see this is where the Kerch Bridge is, somewhere in this vicinity right here. And then obviously we're talking about the highway that comes in from Mariupol in this vicinity to Melitopol, which is somewhere in this general vicinity, and then goes obviously down here into Crimea. So again, this is why we consistently say that there's not many geographical places in which you could pretty heavily or pretty concisely cut off the ammunition or the flow of weapons, aid, whatever it may be, to get to them, fuel, anything that they need, water, anything. So this is probably one of the main places. Again, you take out the Kerch Bridge, you take out and make it very difficult for the Russians to utilize the highway coming in this general direction. And again, you can see how easily this the entirety of Crimea could be kind of cut off as far as Russian resupply, which again will have the benefit of the Ukrainians to be able to consistently and successfully hammer away at any military logistics, any justifiable military targets in Crimea, which there are a bunch. So again, that just seems to be one of the areas in which we've talked about they can probably have the most impact and effect on cutting off to a large degree almost all of the resupply, again, if they continue to see the successes that they've had. And that is the ultimate goal. I'm not saying that's something that we're actually going to see, but that is obviously what we're striving for. So
contributed towards Kherson and Zaporizhia. The Russians use two main resupply routes into Crimea, either by rail over the Kerch Bridge down here on the eastern tip of the peninsula, or to the north along this key road, the M14, which runs along the southern coast of Ukraine from Odessa on the Black Sea through to the Russian border near Mariupol. But Ukraine is increasingly turning Crimea from a strategic asset into a strategic liability. And that's the key shift we're seeing at the moment. What stands out is the scale of the drone.
Again, it's probably easy for anybody, even if you're not, generally militarily affiliated, to see that it's very difficult, or how difficult it could be for Russians to be able to get their resupplies down into Crimea. I mean, if you can't utilize Donetsk to Mariupol to Melitopol down into Crimea to get your shit there, then again, you're looking at the Kerch Bridge, which is probably just below me where I am somewhere. Obviously, it's just a little bit too zoomed in for the map to see right there. But, if you can't use both of those routes, then, how the fuck are you going to have to what? Do air supply, airdrops? How ineffective and inefficient those are. We've discussed that many times before on this podcast as well. So again, you can see how clearly difficult the Ukrainians can and hopefully do make it for the Russians to utilize this highway to resupply Crimea. And obviously, we've talked about at length the dangers posed to the Kerch Bridge, the threats by the Ukrainians have taken that out as well. Again, if there's, I don't know if there's been a better time, really, to kind of utilize whatever intelligence, utilize whatever capabilities they have to take out that bridge than right now. Again, I'm just a simple podcaster that used to be a plumber saying this, so take that with a grain of salt. But in my opinion, now would be, again, a great time, or if in fact they do continue to have the success on the Mariupol to Melitopol highway, the M14, maybe, that needs to be a little bit more apparent, and that needs to be shut down even more before they decide to attack the Kerch Bridge and actually put Russia in that position of having almost no easy way to get supplies down into Crimea. So again, we'll keep an eye on that as to what the plans and the actions of the Ukrainian military are as far as the Kerch Bridge. But it seems like something is in the works sooner rather than later as far as that was concerned.
War Ukraine is conducting. They're no longer just launching occasional long-range strikes. They are deploying thousands of relatively cheap mid-range drones like the powerful American-made Hornet in a sustained operational campaign against logistics targets right across Crimea. Now, the Hornet flies at low altitude. It uses machine vision AI to recognize Russian vehicles, lock on, and then conduct a strike. And
you guys will remember when we talked to Preston Stewart? This all started with the Azov battalion having that, having the footage and having their drones fly over the Azov steel plant and flying over Mariupol, right? I'm not saying obviously there was acts and there was targetings before that, but that's really when I think the wider ranging media started to really take notice about how effective this was becoming. Obviously it was a big moment for the Azov to return to Mariupol in and of itself, to be able to strike inside Mariupol, to be able to fly their drones over Mariupol. But now to see the effectiveness they've had in taking out, resupply vehicles, military vehicles, utilizing that road is kind of, is obviously a good thing to see, that they've progressed from not only being able to fly inside Mariupol, but now seeing, that they're making the Russians pay the price, that are either coming through that area or are stationed in that area to begin with. So, obviously this is, a good sign to see and on the right track for the Ukrainians and the momentum that, we're looking for going into, obviously, this summer offensive months here.
The Russians can't jam it, and its 5-kilo warhead is big enough to destroy a vehicle. Now, these are hunting down trucks, fuel tankers, supply depots, maintenance vehicles, basically everything the Russians need to sustain their combat power. Russian mill bloggers are now openly discussing the possibility that Ukrainian forces are setting conditions for a much larger breakthrough operation in the south. Some are even comparing it to the Kherson campaign in 2022, where...
So it's even the Russian mill bloggers that are saying, hey, we're kind of looking at something that it looks like the Ukrainians is setting up something maybe a little bit larger here, right? I don't know if that's going to entail the Kerch Bridge, but, they're obviously detailing and utilizing a lot of their resources in this area for some specific reason. The mill bloggers in Russia are like, hey, maybe the leadership and maybe the commanders better fucking wisen up to this. Better, hey, wake up and say maybe some resources should be sent into the area, whatever they're saying at this point. But they're definitely calling out the fact that the Ukrainians are having so much, success in this area and making it, increasingly more difficult for the Russians to resupply, which is, again, another aspect in how you win these types of wars.
Ukrainian forces spent months degrading Russian logistics before the Russian defenses simply collapsed. And this is where things get interesting. Multiple analysts believe the war has entered a new phase. Ukraine's operational planning has hugely matured from the kind of positional fighting we've seen up to now. Instead of just reacting to Russian offensives, Ukraine is now shaping the battlefield in advance by identifying these choke points, by destroying bridges and rail lines, targeting their transport corridors, and forcing Russia to move supplies further away from the front line. Russian troops around Kherson and Zaporizhia are particularly vulnerable because so much of their supply system...
look at the levels of this destruction, too. This isn't like one truck every few miles that you see and that just happened to be taken out some weeks ago or a couple days ago. Like, this is pretty consistent destruction and burnt out vehicles throughout this highway at this point.
Narrow land corridor, disrupting these routes.
No signs that the Russians are in here putting up drone nets or trying to construct some sort of defenses against this whatsoever either.
Creates major bottlenecks and degrades Russia's ability to keep fighting. And now we're seeing evidence that this pressure is intensifying dramatically. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that a breakthrough is guaranteed, but it does mean Ukraine seems to be gaining the initiative in the south for now. The question is whether Kyiv has deep enough stocks, both domestic and from its allies, to make this attrition really count before the Russians, as they always do, develop countermeasures and this window of opportunity closes shut.
So again, it remains to be seen what the broader goal is in the South. If it's just kind of, a general aspect of keep the Russians as far away as possible, obviously take out as many as humanly possible, make it as difficult for them to resupply as humanly possible, or there is some, specific detailed goals in mind with a broader action coming, in the works right now. And this is just kind of the opening aspects, the opening salvo, as it were, to kind of, soften up the defenses of the Russians to make it so that when in fact the whatever Ukrainian plan is enacted, the Russians have less ability to resupply, less troops in the area that are well stocked, have the ammunition to defend against an attack. Those types of things is obviously what you've seen recently in kind of how these things go. You know what I mean? You don't just throw your troops into a situation. You obviously go in there and soften up the defenses and make it so that that force is as depleted as humanly possible before you send your troops in there. So again, we'll keep our eye on all aspects. And this is above and beyond, obviously, the oil refineries, obviously above and beyond the ports that the Ukrainians are consistently striking simultaneously with all of these, obviously all of the actions in different positions on the front line. So, this is showing the capabilities of the Ukrainian military pretty fucking good, pretty concisely, showing their ability they have at doing all of this at once, fighting on the front lines, striking targets inside of Russia, striking targets inside of occupied Ukraine, going after the Crimea, making it so they can't resupply. All of these things they're doing simultaneously against a much bigger force, and they're doing it very, very well, and they're having a lot of success. So again, all good things to see. I also saw that the Ukrainians were working on technology that the Russians have. I don't know. I'm sure it'll be better to some degree than the Russians have, but their ability to spoof and to jam drones. I was looking at something earlier. I didn't have it pulled up there, but they were talking about, the spoofing ability that the Ukrainians are utilizing now, or trying to, again, advance and perfect, to be able to, I think they called it Lima. It was either Project Lima, if I'm not mistaken, or something along those lines, because the software and their capabilities have the ability to make the Russian drones think that they're in like Peru. So I think it was like either Operation Lima, or that was just, the code name associated with the project. But again, it has the ability, much like we've seen the Russians have, of spoofing the Ukrainian drones, making them fly off course, making it so that like the coordinates are all scrambled and it just can't find whatever target it was initially set out to hit. So again, to see that the Ukrainians are now trying to advance that and use it for their own benefit, their own purposes, to spoof or, send the Russian drones off target is a very, very good thing. And obviously something that we'd expect from the Ukrainian side as well. Obviously, not only trying to catch up to the Russians, but obviously overtake in a lot of aspects technologically, obviously, as drone warfare is concerned. So I do appreciate you guys. I'll see if I can pull that up for the next show, because that was pretty interesting. But I just didn't think I'd have enough time to squeeze it into today's show. But if you want to look it up, if you can look up, I don't know if it's, like I said, Operation Lima, or if you look up Ukraine Lima, it should pull up the either the article or the video that I was watching to give you the updates and insights onto that as well. So let's get into thanking some people. I think it was another fantastic fucking show. Again, I'm typically biased because it's my show, so you guys let me know how you think I did. If you guys find some value, if you find some comfort there in the chat with some like-minded people, if you can find some quarters in between those couch cushions of yours and send them into the Venmo, either in a super chat, go over to patreon.com or sign up for a YouTube membership. That would be fantastic. Again, we try to do things as an independent station here, an independent channel. We have no financial backers, sponsors. We don't show you any ads. Nothing. None of our content is hidden behind a paywall. None of those things. So it's all with your generosity, your support of this channel, that we're able to continue to do this. Nobody telling us what we can say, what we can't say, what we can talk about, what we can't talk about. And I think that's the best way to do this. Again, we always talk about how it's not the most lucrative, nor is talking politics in general. So I've kind of thrown myself into a hole in that regard. But, it's you guys and your generosity and your appreciation for the show that makes it worth it. That keeps me going, keeps me ticking, keeps me aggressive and passionate about this. So I really do appreciate you guys and respect you guys for all that you've done for this channel, both the chat and obviously the mods as well. But let's get into thanking some people on YouTube. If anybody was kind enough to send over an old YouTube today, an old Venmo today, Geneva, thank you so much. Donna, thank you so much as well. Thank you, Nina. Oh, you guys are amazing. Thank you, Dame. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Bry Guy. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Karen and Jeff. Oh, you guys are fantastic. Thank you guys for your donations. Thank you, James. Thank you, Yakov. Thank you, Victoria and Tom. Thank you, MR. Thank you, Roxanne. Hope your mom is well, Roxanne. Sorry to hear that you had to deal with another episode, as it were. But again, good vibes, healing vibes, and well wishes being sent your way, both to you and your mom. Thank you, Yakov. I see you popping in there, brother. I see that. Thank you so much for your contributions as well, and obviously all the work you do down there in the chat, and then everybody else as well. Tom, the altar boy. Again, we're sending some well wishes and good vibes his way and his family's way as well. So what do you say we get over here on the YouTube side of things? We'll start thanking some people. I can talk. I appreciate it. I know at some point I'll learn how to speak. The lips will continue to work. But Jerry started it off today. I thank you very much, Jerry. Hello there, Boston. Brian, much love, Slava Ukraine, Heroyam Slav. And congratulations on 2 years, Jerry. That's fantastic. Very much appreciated. Thank you so much for your kindness, your loyalty, your friendship, being here in the chat all the time. Very, very much appreciated. And we thank you very much for it. Thank you, Colleen, as always, for your $20 contribution. Thank you for keeping Ukraine in your shows. Yep, and that's something that we will not stop. We will continue to do that. Please head over to Help 99 and check out the new campaign that we have. That would be very, very much appreciated if you could help. If you could hop over there, contribute $1 or $2 or $5, whatever you can into that campaign would be greatly appreciated. The quicker we can get that done, the quicker we can start on another one. And again, let me throw this on your screen because this is a pretty substantial figure, as it were, talking about the Help 99 campaign, the NAFO campaign. This is 22.8 million euro that they've raised throughout their entirety of their projects. 52 convoys completed, over 1,000 vehicles brought from Estonia to the front lines, 32 pets rescued, 585 ISR drones they've helped send in there, over 1,000 portable anti-drone jammers, almost 2,000 FPV drones, almost 400 radios, all active campaigns here, as you can see. Let me see here. You just click down this list, and I think mine should be, there you go. There's mine right here. So we got Boston Brian. Just check out the Summer of Drones. I think it's a very apt naming for that, a very apt title. And then, like I said, I think we have the best patches. I don't think there's anybody that could beat us in the patch game. No offense to anybody else out there. A lot of respect to everybody that's got a NAFO campaign going, anybody that's designed to patch. But, come on, how the fuck can you beat those, right? I mean, if you're a blue-collar guy, if you're from Boston, how can you beat the Red Sox cap? Salute and a cheers to the Ukrainian military. You got the drones up above, the Zakim Bridge, the Boston skyline with the Prue in the background. And again, if you're a 007 fan, does it get any better than that Skyfall one? I mean, that is just one everybody's going to need to collect. I mean, if you're a person that's collecting these NAFO patches, then I don't see how you could fucking miss out on this opportunity. So, and obviously we got the Kherson is Ukraine, all just as important as well. So these are all going to the 3rd Operational Battalion, the Artillery Platoon. And again, all the vehicles going there help save lives. All vehicles going there help to make it a little bit more easy for them to resupply, for them to get their food, their water, their ammunition. Again, to take the impact from the drones so that the people inside of the vehicle stay safe. That's the goal. That's our hope. Those are our wishes. And we'll continue to promote this. I'll make a video, letting everybody know that this is live, and I'll throw that on my social medias as well. So thank you to everybody that's been donating. I see we already have 4 donations. Let me see. Let's see here. Oh, Yakov. Let's go, brother. Thank you so much, Yakov, for your kind contributions to this. Thank you so much, Todd, who kicked us off with a $526 donation. So that is fantastic there to see. So, all right, let's go. We're 566 euro into our 20,500 euro goal. And like I said, I know you guys can only do so much, right? I am not expecting you guys to get this done by yourselves. If you can't contribute, if you're not in the financial position to do so, please just share it out, right? If you could put this on your social medias, if you could let other people know about this, somebody that may have the scratch in their wallet, somebody that may have the reach in their community with their channel to get this out to different people, that would be greatly appreciated and just as helpful. So again, if you can't do anything, I understand. We're in a very difficult position here financially, economically. I'm right there with you. Believe me, if I gave you all the details as to what's going on in my life, I think you'd be pretty concerned, to say the least. But again, thank you guys to everybody contributing, and we'll see how quickly we can get this done. All right. So again, thank you to Help 99. Thank you to the NAFO boys over at the 69 Sniffer Brigade for the honor and the prestige and allowing me to be a part of this. It is not taken lightly. I take it very seriously, and hopefully my passion shows through on this, and how willing and excited I am to get this done and to continue helping the men and women of the armed forces of Ukraine. So, all right, I appreciate you guys. Let's get into thanking some people over here. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Jeff, as well. Appreciate you, my brother. Thank you so much for 13 months of loyalty. Boston Brian t-shirts there. Yeah, check it out now. Go to bostonbrian.com. Check out the merch site. We got fantastic merch. Again, it doesn't have to pertain to blunt politics of Boston Brian. We have merch out there that just lets people know immediately what side of history you stand on, that you're part of the opposition, that you're part of the resistance. It doesn't have to go any deeper than that. And obviously, if you sign up at patreon.com, /Boston Brian, you can check out the discounts that we give to our Patreon members towards the merch site. So thank you so much, Jin, in bringing that up. Thank you so much to Ali Yorkie for your kind donation for NAFO Slava Ukraini. I'll send that in, my friend. Thank you so much for that kind and generous donation as well. Thank you, Bry Guy. 2 hours on Ditch Witch. You know what I'm talking about. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Oh, you sent it in twice. So nice you had to send it twice, Bry Guy. I appreciate that. Thank you, Jeff, again. At the end of the first term, dumb, dirty diaper Donald insistent that General Milley put together for him a comprehensive plan for invading Iran. Again, that's pretty much what he was showing the people in his office as part of the classified information, classified documents that he stole on his way out of the first term there. So I appreciate you, Jeff. Thank you for your kind contributions and bringing that up. Thank you, Deb. Thanks for the ongoing in-depth Ukraine coverage. Much appreciated, Deb. And it is absolutely my pleasure to be able to bring that to you. Really, it is. So, JD, thank you so much as always, brother. Going right in the swear jar. Very much appreciate you, and thank you, Nina, for everything that you do today. And I think I'm not supposed to say Nina, if I now remember correctly. Is it Ninang? Right? I don't know. I always say it wrong. I apologize if I'm getting anybody's name wrong, but I do very much appreciate the kind contributions. I think somebody corrected me now that I'm remembering. Somebody corrected me on this a long time ago that I was calling you Nina and that wasn't the name. So my apologies. I'll get it right at some point. But again, like I said, I do appreciate the contributions and you being here and all the support. So thank you guys again for a great show. Thank you guys again for 20,000 subscribers. And thank you guys again for helping me get as close as we possibly can to 25,000 subscribers before midterm elections come around. Like I said, we want the most weight behind our punches. We want to be able to kick up as much fucking dust as humanly possible in this space, make as many waves as humanly possible to knock as many bastards down as humanly possible. So, all right, I'm out of here before I get myself in trouble. I love you guys. I respect you guys. Stay loud, stay proud, stay aggressive. Get out of your seats. Get into the streets. I still don't think we're fucking mad enough in this country. In fact, I know we're not mad enough in this country. So once everybody decides to wake up and realize just how badly we're getting kicked in the dick, punched in the face, and trampled on by, again, not only this administration, but by the billionaire class, the sooner we're going to get our fucking asses into the street and start demanding some change. So I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Fuck Donald Trump. Chinga la migra. Slava Ukraine. Heroyam Slava. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for the Friday show. That's going to be 2 p.m. Eastern here on the East Coast, 11 a.m. On the West Coast, and, you know, anywhere in between, depending on where you live. So I appreciate you guys. My name is Brian. This is Blunt Politics. Hit that like button on the way out. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you like what you're hearing, if you like what you're seeing, if you find yourself coming back, please check to see if you're subscribed to the channel. A lot of people watch. They think they're subscribed, but you may not be subscribed that you know of. So please head over there, check it out, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. Thank you to the mods. Big shout out to the best chat on earth. And like I said, we'll see you guys on Friday. I'm out of here. Appreciate it. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you over there on Twitch. Very much appreciate that. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, Twitch. Thank you, Instagram. Thank you, Substack. And I appreciate all the mods. Thank you, Alyosha on Twitch. Thank you to all the fantastic mods I have over here on YouTube. Love you guys. Thank you, Andrea. Good to see you. WW. Good to see you, Wes. Yeah, much love from Pops. Thank you, Yakov. Appreciate you, bro.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Never fight uphill, me boys. Never fight uphill. They were fighting uphill. He said, wow, that was a big mistake. He lost his great general. And they were fighting. Never fight uphill, me boys. But it was too late. You're a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat your... Army manned the air. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. They're just getting acclimated. You know what that means, acclimated? When you ran out the healthy arms, you ran out of really healthy. They had great arms, but they ran out. It's called sports. It's called baseball in particular, and pitchers, I guess you could say, in really particular. Gettysburg, what an unbelievable battle that was. The Battle of Gettysburg, what an unbelievable, I mean, it was so much and so interesting and so vicious and horrible and so beautiful in so many different ways. It represented such a big portion of...
танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Oh, get those lights off! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off. Call them dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Yesterday is a hard word for me. Eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets.
Go fuck yourself.
Where you going?
Nowhere.
How do you lie to the FBI and now you're running for president? Seriously, how do you lie to the FBI and now you're running for president?
Get off my plane.
My superpower's being honest. I will eat my neighbors.
What in the hell was that all about? He says, wrecked him, damn near killed him. Taking him back to Nevada where he's wanted for banging horses.
Here you got a little chubby going there.
I didn't say mud, I said crud. You fall into some crud or something? I'm just dandy. I got a bowl of chocolate pudding in my underpants.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
What uranium is, right? This thing called nuclear weapons and other things, like lots of things are done with uranium, including some bad things. The big, fat, sloppy